Let's see. We're rocking. My mom is such a social butterfly. It's hilarious.
I know.
Love her. All right.
I do too, actually.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Sorry to interrupt, but since this is a education class, we kind of have a schedule we got to keep. So thank you, everybody, for coming. My name's Josh. I'm the DB here at Breakthrough. Appreciate everybody just taking the time to come by. Thought a free class would be the easiest way to bribe y'all to come into my office and check it out. So obviously, well, that's about it. So we're sponsored today by an awesome guy. He's been a lender for a long time. He's actually, well, you were a nurse and stuff before, so just a good guy. So his name's Michael. So we'll hand it over to him really quick.
Not to the nurse part, but I worked in the OR.
You worked in the OR? Okay, sorry about that.
So I've known Josh and the family well since Josh first got into real estate. So anyways, I'm from Lynn Smart Mortgage. We're kind of more of your boutique correspondent lender, so we can do everything your fairways, your academies, AmeriFirst, all of that does. Big thing for you guys, for your clients, one is pricing. Our interest rates by far beat everyone's. I've not had anyone beat me, and I won't let anyone beat me. Secondly, our turn times. My closings, we do a 21-day close. Now there are those clients that make things a little bit difficult, so always quote a 30-day, but if anything, we're well ahead of schedule day in and day out. So we've rolled out some new programs. USDA is now allowing manufactured homes for their rural properties, which wasn't allowed before. It's currently a pilot program that's going through August. So that will definitely help for like the Black Canyon City, which a lot of the agents here work out of. FHA loan limits went up. So it is definitely a benefit. Downside to that is also interest rates have gone up, so may not always benefit everyone. So otherwise, we've got everything, your non-QM, your hard money loans, bridge loans, one-time construction loans. And then we also have land loans, which not many do. So it's kind of the nice thing about us is we have all of our in-house stuff we can do and fund, but we also have the ability to broker. So we are not stuck to just inside the box what meets everyone's needs. So if it's hard to fill client, hard to find property or finance property, we can find a product for it. And if we don't have it, we'll get it.
You deal with people that have rough credit but 20% down payment?
Yep. So we can do, we can go FHA. If they've got a 500 credit score, it's 20% down. So,
wow. 500?
500, yeah. So we can also, run through 10% down.
Only 10% down.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So, and then again, if their credit's still kind of rough, if they've got, 20% to put down, we may have the conversation of let's go through and do a rapid rescore and let's get some things handled to get that score up, so they can definitely benefit from a better rate.
Contact material or anything?
Yeah, I've got a bunch of cards here.
Okay.
I'll set them out here for you guys. My phone's on until about 9 o'clock at night. I sold real estate for 9 years, so I completely understand. You guys need answers when you need them, and that's not Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. So if there's anything I can do, please reach out anytime.
Great. Thank you.
Questions?
Awesome.
Comments? Perfect.
Give him a hand.
Enjoy.
Thank you. Thanks for sponsoring the class today. Really appreciate it. Good morning, everybody. My fellow real estate professionals. We're here for Code of Ethics. Yes, your favorite subject, right? Last minute. There are two classes that are really tough to teach because it's like regurgitating the same information over and over again. And those of you who've been in the business for a long time practically have it memorized. You can teach the class. And that's fair housing and Code of Ethics. My name is Marty Barnewolf. I'm your instructor today. I have I started my school in 2008, but I started my real estate career in 1984. I know I don't look that old, but I did. I started in Prescott in 1984 when interest rates were at 19+%. Wow.
Amazing, right?
I love today's rates, I will tell you. I don't even care if they're inching up. I can remember the day we celebrated a VA loan, a good VA loan at 14% with 4 points. That was a really good loan.
Well, my first condo in 2000 was at 7%.
Yeah. See the difference? So let me see a show of hands. I'd like to kind of get to know who my audience is. How many of you have been in the business less than 5 years right now? 5 years. Oh, okay. So you've seen a pretty decent market then, right? Yeah, it's been pretty much on the incline. We've had a few setbacks here and there where we have these little lulls now, I call them. How about 10 years and less? Okay, so you started right when things were starting to pick up and maybe get a little bit better, weren't looking as bad as prior to that. 15, up to 15. Okay, so you've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Well, I started right at the
break.
12
Really?
years.
When?
Right about the time the spigot got turned on.
Yeah. So right about 2007.
Yep.
Yeah. 2007. Yeah. 20 years, up to 20. Great. Good experience in the room. More than 20. It's got more than 20. Oh, we've got wisdom in the room.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Old timers.
Yeah. Over 30? How long?
35 years.
35. Congratulations.
I got
And didn't she
licensed
look
in
great?
82. I got licensed in 1982.
That's awesome.
Wow.
Oh, so you remember those high interest
Oh,
rate
do I?
dates. Oh,
Dot
yeah, yeah.
Matrix and the big MLS
Oh,
book
yeah.
every Friday.
Very tough.
Yeah.
Very, very tough. How about you, sir?
I've got about 22 years.
22 years. Congratulations. That's great. Who else had their hand up? Yes, sir.
39 years.
39. Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Here, all in Arizona.
Except for 6 months in Ohio.
Oh. And you came back because you loved Arizona, right?
No, I started there, and
Oh.
one of my sellers suggested I move here.
Oh.
So
And here you are.
I started here in 1980.
Congratulations. Love it. Absolutely love it. So I rely on you guys to help me with details and facts because the market has changed considerably and we're in a major change now, are we not? Things are changing in our industry big time. The new iBuyer model, right, is having a huge impact. Coming soons are having a huge impact and nationwide. I'm not just talking here in Arizona. This is nationwide. So opening your class today, a couple of things I want to mention. I was at the Department of Real Estate yesterday. Again, I'm on the Education Advisory Committee there. So I work closely with the Education Division. Some changes, which some of you have probably seen. We now have a sign in and a sign out roster that's now required by the Department of Real Estate. We used to have to do that back in the old days. They took the sign out roster away. And now the commissioner has brought it back. So before you leave today, please make sure that you sign the sign out roster. They're going to be auditing those signatures. So they're coming down hard on education, and it's primarily because of all of the violations, some of which we're going to get to cover today in our class material. But I want to start with a little information about Arizona. Please do me a favor, silence your phones, no texting, emailing, surfing the net, playing World of Warcraft, any of that kind of thing. And I can tell when you're doing that under the table. Make sure your laptops and tablets are closed. And I need you to restrict time out of the classroom if you're here for CE, and I'm assuming everybody is, right? Or it could just be the great food that Charlotte's brought. We're going to take a break at 10:15. That'll give you plenty of time to return your phone calls, answer text messages, that sort of thing. And then we'll get out of here at 11:45, 15 minutes early. Sound good? That'll be your second break. All right, let's roll. So the course title is Rules of the Road, the NAR code. This class does qualify. It meets, NAR has approved this course for the 2-year biennial requirement. So they changed, right? NAR changed from a 4-year requirement to a 2-year requirement, right? Why do you think they did that? Why do you think we need code of ethics training
Just to remind
more
everybody.
frequently?
Keep professionalism in the business.
Yeah, we got to increase our professionalism in the business. So I told you I started in 1984 in Prescott. That same year, NAR came out with what they called Pathways to Professionalism, which is one of the handouts you have in your packet. Most people don't even know that it exists. And the reason they came out with that is because they had conducted a survey of buyers and sellers, and the results were as far as whether those buyers and sellers felt that we were a trustworthy profession and honest and diligent. We ranked second from the very, very bottom nationwide in professions. Do you think that's moved any since 1984?
I think so.
Think it's moved up?
A little.
little bit.
Went down?
No, went down.
Oh, no.
We're still second from the bottom. We're still second from the bottom.
What's the bottom? Car sales?
It is. It's still car sales. It used to be attorneys, though. I will tell you, we were just above attorneys. So now it's car sales. So here's the thing: is we have a ton of internal complaints that aren't being filed. We have a lot of violations that aren't being pursued. So instead of using the process that we have in place, we do other things, which is really dividing our group. So we're going to touch on some of that today.
Can you like expand a little bit on some of the violations that?
Yeah, mostly advertising, crossing lines on listing properties, advertising other people's property without giving credit to the brokerage firm.
Because that's interesting, because I've recently, in two of my new listings, I've had agents reaching out to me to market them on.
Yeah, be very careful with that.
Yeah.
You can, it's.
I'm like, I've not even responded to them. They're asking for me.
That's becoming very common. And we'll touch
because there's so
on that.
much junk email and wire fraud and all that kind of stuff that's out there. I'm scared to open up some of those type of emails.
Very smart. That's the other big challenge that we have.
You know, and then they're wanting to market it on Craigslist and things like that. And right there's a red flag for me, because I ended up finding an agent marketing one of my properties almost a year ago. Called my broker and I said, what is this? She says, you better get them, tell them to get it off right now.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that. That's actually in the presentation, that very thing. It's becoming really common. So there are agents newer in the business that are using a strategy to look like they have a lot of credibility. They have no other way of building credibility. And it takes time to build your name in this profession. It's not an easy thing to do. I remember what it was like to be brand new. If you're loaning them the use, and some people are, just make certain the information is accurate and your broker gets the credit for that being their listing. And when I say accurate information, we're going to get into more detail about that. But there's a lot of other things we're going to talk about too. So you're going to get one certificate, but it serves two purposes. And I had the Department of Real Estate say that with all of these certificates that are being issued now, agents really don't have a good understanding of the regulatory role and your association role. So the Department of Real Estate wants that certificate logged into your website, right, for your CE credit. That's where you go because this course is approved for CE credit as well, Commissioner Standards. And then it's the National Association that wants that certificate with the seal on it. This says no matter what association you belong to, this course is approved. It has that seal on it. You send that to the association to prove that you have met the NAR requirement, right? So two purposes for that. Okay. And if you send it to the Department of Real Estate asking them to apply it to your NAR Code of Ethics, they haven't got a clue what to do with it. I'm just going to tell you. So let's check in on our great state. So I always open with some information about what's going on around our state. There's tons of things happening. I know we're in a little bit of a lull now, although I've been teaching at a lot of title companies lately, and all of their offices are full of people signing. So I'm wondering what the closings are going to look like by the end of December, what those numbers are. I'd like for you to take this website down. It's www.azcommerce.com. Please sign up for their newsletter. You will hear from these people via email, a newsletter that will tell you what new industry has contracted to move into the state, how many people they are going to be hiring, what types of jobs they are going to be hiring for, how much space they are going to have built, and where it will be located. Yes, azcommerce.com. azcommerce.com. So a little history about this group here. This is my favorite group in the entire state because of all of the great work they've done for Arizona. So in 2008, there was a group formed. It was called the Arizona Chamber of Commerce and Growth. There were 4 people assigned to that group. And in 2008, that was right when our downturn was. We were crashing. Our economy was crashing, right? For those of you who remember that. And the governor at that time said, here is your objective. Number 1, we need to change the real estate boom and bust economy in the state of Arizona. We have been stuck in this since the 1950s, and that was true. Very true, if you look at our history. Next, they were tasked with visiting all of the state businesses to make certain that they stayed in Arizona. We will provide you the tools. We will provide you resources. Phoenix started setting up training centers to make certain that people were being trained because we were suffering economically. We were going into debt very rapidly as a state. We almost lost Intel that year. I don't know if you know that, but that would have been 1,800 jobs that would have left this state. And we were already not in good shape. We had between 2008 and 2011, we had 367,000 homes foreclosed. Not even talking about the number of short sales that we had. So it was not looking pretty here. Then their biggest primary task was to start visiting other states and recruiting clean industry, relocating, making their home base Arizona. Well, after 4 years, by 2010, they had not done a very good job with that. I don't know if it was because of the economy, they didn't have the direction, I don't know what it was, but they got fired. And they changed the name. The new governor comes in and changes the name to Arizona Commerce Authority. And she shopped the nation for talent, the top talent. She hired the top talent to recruit new businesses. The goal was the same. Let's get our economy where it's flat and smooth moving, not always relying on real estate. And recruit those new businesses, and let's shore up the businesses that we have existing. Have you noticed a change since 2010?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, it's amazing what they're doing. I was here in October and taught this class. I think there's probably been 6 new companies contracted that I've gotten emails on their newsletters for that are moving to Arizona early next year, early first quarter. Why is this information important to you?
It helps with our sales.
It helps with your sales. It contributes to your business. It also is information you can share with people who are relocating here, right? That's what I use it for. I also educate sellers. Here's what's happening in your neighborhood. Here's what's going on. And if my sellers are competing with new home developments, do I think they need to know that? Absolutely. It's part of our job to educate them. What about you? How many of you invest in real estate? Might you want to know where the growth rate is? Yeah, you should be watching those things.
Saturation of investors right now.
It is unbelievable, and it's not stopping. It's not going to stop. So this is their front page of their website. It hasn't changed in the last couple of months. I keep checking regularly because I am a big fan. So they are now bragging that Arizona is #1 in the nation for entrepreneurial activity. We boast that we have among the lowest corporate tax rate in the nation at 4.9%. They also advertise 300 sunny days per year. There's a good reason for that. For those of us who live here, right? We know it's more than that. But they're actually boasting 300 sunny days per year. And we are #2 in the nation for low unemployment, which is really good. That's good for Arizona. So let's talk a little bit about what they focus on. So in case you didn't know, Arizona is home to more than 1,200 small and large-scale aerospace and defense companies. That includes manufacturing. We have some really good companies right here that are top-paying jobs. Technology and innovation. What you're going to hear about in the future is how much Bill Gates is contributing to that with his smart city development.
Is that the one out on the west?
Tonopah, yes. Renewable energy. What is our renewable energies here? Solar, #1. What's the second? Wind. Second is wind. We have bioscience, healthcare, optics, and photonics. Why is that important? What's happening in Arizona? We have an aging population. Why? Because we are a destination state. Write this number down. We have 10,000 boomers retiring per day in this country. 10,000 boomers. We are one of 3 of the most popular states for relocating.
So Florida being another one.
Florida's another, Arizona, and now Nevada.
Oh, it is Nevada?
Now it's Nevada.
I know we're getting a lot of people from Washington State
Mhm.
versus Colorado coming here more than that.
I'm going to
as
show
well
you
as
some
California
charts on
still.
what's happening with the growth. Yeah, you're going to be able to watch these trends. For those of you who do business planning, I would really I want to just make a suggestion and a recommendation. You need to be downloading those surveys off the National Association of Realtors website. I have followed those for years. They are good predictors of what's coming. 2 years ago, they said the millennial generation will be the largest percentage of home buyers. Who was it in 2018? It was the largest percentage of home buyers. Millennials. Millennials were. And many of us are not even marketing to them. Make sense? And we have some millennials in this room. If you're under 40, you're a millennial, right? Okay. So we're an aging population. Have you noticed Banner Health? Huge growth. Other hospital brands are moving into the state. There's a reason for that. Labs are opening up. Major research divisions, medical research divisions have come to Arizona. Then we have advanced manufacturing already in existence. Intel, Microchip, Honeywell, Raytheon, JDA, Frito-Lay, Insight, and there's more. There's more. We have automobile manufacturers moving into the state now. We have 2 different car manufacturing facilities and a semi-truck facility out of Tucson. Advanced business services. These are the data centers. You guys are right in the heart of all of the growth. You're surrounded by all of this development. So you're going to you have the advantage of going from the highest to the most affordable housing market there is. And that's what your vision needs to be for your business. Where are you taking your business? And how can this help you? So I just want to share a few things with you. Again, this is some of the stuff on their website. It is not all. I am going to tell you there's tons of information on this website. You need to dedicate a good 30 minutes to just clicking through stuff. You will be amazed at what you find out. Autonomous vehicles, that's the big rage right now in Arizona. Education technology. So I'm standing in front of you today in a classroom. Where do you think that's headed? How many of you have taken at least one continuing education online for your license renewal? Now look at the hands. 71% of all licensees do at least 50% of their renewal hours online. That's just for licensing. Corporate America is using this. This used to be like a $4 million industry. It is now, just in this nation, almost 600 billion.
Oh my God.
Huge. Corporations no longer have to fly their people for trainings. They don't have to go other locations. They can be worldwide right on the computer. Pretty cool, right? Huge, huge growth in this. And you're going to see some of that affecting licensing coming up, right? You all know pre-licensing online in Arizona will be available about April 1 of next year. Yeah.
Really?
Pre-licensing online April 1. Passed in the legislature this past session. Applications will be accepted the 1st of January. They will take a full 90 days to be able to, because they audit all 90 hours of every course that gets submitted. And she is anticipating applications, she being the commissioner, anticipating applications from all those people who have called: Australia, New Zealand, China, Korea, all around the world. They want to teach online pre-licensing for Arizona. Pretty interesting, right? Pretty interesting. Renewable energies, huge with solar, and we have wind stuff coming up I'm going to share with you. Then we have the Internet of Things, and they call it the Internet of Things because Bill Gates is really pushing this in Arizona, mostly as a support for development of his smart city. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Freshwater science, big deal. That one thing. We have over 100 years of water research in the state of Arizona conducted right here. We've done smart things with our water. But with our population growth, we have to get smarter. But water research has literally put us on the world map. We have countries like Dubai and parts of Africa coming here to learn about how to recharge groundwater because we need it, how to protect from evaporation, how to clean water using microorganisms that eat all the stuff in them. That research is done right here in Arizona. It's amazing, the results. Smart materials, lighter, faster. I was at a presentation 6 weeks ago by this group, and one of the young men at the podium clearly stated that in less than 5 years, we will literally be able to drive from here to LA in half the time safely. I don't know how. I asked if it was going to be hoverboards or something like that. I just don't know. They wouldn't say, but it has to do with the smart materials. Agricultural technology, 69% of our water is still utilized for farming. So, and it evaporates, much of it evaporates before it goes back into the groundwater. So again, Dubai and some of the other arid countries are really looking at our agricultural developments on how we are utilizing a large percentage of that water and feeding it back in to our ground surface water. Because we're going to have water if we're going to continue to grow, right? Then we have personalized medicine and telemedicine. I don't get into a lot of detail on those. I'm just going to tell you that your doctor is going to have your DNA, and he's going to know what you're susceptible to, he or she. And you're not even going to have to go into the office. If you have issues, you see this little device here called telemedicine, wherever you live, that will be your connection to your doctor. You'll be able to order your lab. You'll be able to look at your lab results. They say that that device has the ability to order just about anything you want. If you need new skin, you can order it there. You need a limb, you can order it through that thing. I kid you not.
Are they still gonna
It's
collect the
mind-boggling, isn't it? I'm like, yes, seriously. And where this really is good, where they're really excited about it, is in the rural areas where getting to good medical help and assistance is not that easy. So great things. Aren't you excited about what's happening in Arizona? I mean, we're this little bitty state, 17% of our land is privately held. The rest of it belongs to somebody else. And look at the things that we're doing with what we have. I just love it. I'm proud to be an Arizonan. Nano satellites, that's one of my favorite. We're going to talk a little bit about that. So I'm going to give you a little detail. This isn't everything. These are the two logos that you'll see in the autonomous vehicles, right? I told you we have 2 car manufacturing facilities here. What's autonomous? Self-driving. Self-driving. So I know you've seen Waymo. It's the one that has the thing on the roof that looks like it could sprout blades and take off anytime, right? So they're testing them now. They're also manufacturing them here. And then Cruise is the other one. You'll see Cruise, that logo. You'll find them on the sides of their vehicles. They have to disclose who they are. And I've heard some pretty scary stories. So when you're in traffic with them, you've got to pay extra attention, because I've been told they'll sometimes make a turn right in front of you. So be careful. They estimate that it is 4 months, 120 days is the amount of work days the average American spends driving to and from work.
Yeah, longer for realtors.
$1 trillion, right? It's higher for us, right? $1 trillion, 100 million, and 50 years is the cost, the number of jobs, and the time to advance the next generation transportation system. And I got to see some slides on what that's going to look like. I just want you to think about the monorail at Disneyland, only a different color with a lot of extra features. It is unbelievable what they've got designed.
And a lot longer track.
A lot longer track. $1.9 trillion is the estimated economic impact of cars and trucks coming out of Arizona by 2025 to our nation. Is that not good news for us? Yeah, I think it's great news. I love it. Renewable energy.
Are all those located here in Phoenix?
No, we have one in Tucson. I think 2 of the car manufacturing facilities, one is in Coolidge and another one is somewhere around Casa Grande. Renewable energy. Here's an interesting thing. We have 625,000 people currently employed in the renewable energy sector that are Arizona residents. That's good. We are the #1 state with the most solar electricity installed. And if you notice, all these corporations and these big buildings that are being built in all these air parks, they're putting solar on the roofs. Your public buildings, all your government buildings are now using solar, right? Parking garages, grocery stores, the schools, all of your government or public buildings, absolutely. And then our residential. And I get a lot of differing feedback. I have some people say they love their solar. It has absolutely cut their bill. I have other people that say, there's no savings. You know, I pay just about the same amount monthly that I did when I had electricity. I don't know. I do know that utilizing solar in some of these public buildings is definitely going to save on our energy usage for this state. And that's important if we're going to continue to grow. Look at what's happening with California when they have the blackouts. They get no power, none. And they don't have a way of reproducing that or generating that. Arizona is pioneering research of two of the most promising renewable energy sources. That's solar and wind. So I want to talk just a little bit about the solar stuff because you see all these solar panels out there. How many of you drive I-10 going west to LA? Yes. Have you seen at just about the Harquahala Valley area, all those panels off in the distance, acres and acres and acres and acres of those panels out there? That land, that is the best use for that land for one primary reason. If you remember back to your licensing days, all of that area had non-irrigation rights. You cannot pump the water out of that area because it affects the river, the Colorado River, right? So you can't draft water from there. So it's a perfect use, which means you couldn't really build houses unless you were going to import water from somewhere outside the Harquahala Valley, right? So it's a perfectly good use. I-8 has the same thing, and you're going to see more of these coming up to produce energy. One of my favorites, 60% growth demand for renewable algae-based biofuels by 2030, and that is one of my favorites. And I tell this story all the time, so if you've heard it before, and I know some of you in the room have, but I still love it. How many of you are familiar with algae-based fuels? It surprises me how many people don't know. ASU started this research years and years ago. So, and it's still going on today and it's going strong. The program is stronger today than it ever has been. Back around 2010 to 2012 area, they they teamed up with Boeing out of Seattle. And they had always been working with Boeing, and Boeing supports this program financially to a large degree. But in this instance, they contracted to have a jet, a 737 out of Seattle, leave Seattle and fly to Dallas-Fort Worth and land using a particular mixture of biofuels, algae-based biofuels. It was really cool, but they had to get an awful lot of government permission because the plane could not fly over primary populated areas, had to fly around heavily populated areas. It took off. They finally got the approval. The day that it took off, the pilot boards was the only person on the plane. They handed him a parachute before he gets on, right? They were serious about this. It landed 10 minutes ahead of schedule in Dallas-Fort Worth. Yes, successful flight. And they've done other experiments since that time with it. So what is happening here now is they're continuing to advance the original algae-based fuel formula, and they're looking at levels of mixtures. Where do they get the best, highest and best use with the mixtures, and eventually get it to where they don't have to mix it with anything. So right after that trial flight, guess who started buying up land and developing algae beds?
Government.
Standard Oil. Standard Oil owns most of the algae beds currently in the U.S. and supplies us. Also, I will tell you, Maricopa Pima Indian community is looking at developing algae beds as well. Yeah, they are. So let's talk a little bit about the wind part too. So, you know, one of the things that has always distressed me, I don't fly much anymore just because they've ruined it for me. It's no longer fun. It's a real effort and I'm not talking about the security. I'm just talking about all the rest of it. So I drive a lot if I can, and it's an easy drive to LA or wherever. And headed that direction, leaving Palm Springs, you have those great big windmills, right? I have always felt those were a blight on the nation. I have had a few people tell me that they love them, that they think they're living on another planet when they're there. I just don't care for them personally. I never have. So that's not what's being developed here. What they have discovered, the newest technology, it looks like a slingshot. And it's not even quite as tall as I am right now, with 2 arms, and there's 5 bands that run between the arms. and they paint them the color of the environment, and they set them out, and they collect 5 times as much energy as those big windmills do. And easy to maintain, really easy and inexpensive to maintain. They are scheduled to be going into the Mojave Desert, up around the Kingman area, into the Mojave Valley. And I haven't been up there, so I don't know if they're there yet. I can't find any documentation that evidences that they're there, but that's where they're scheduled to be. I think you will also see some of them on the Maricopa Pima Indian Reservation on the east side of the state. So good news, that's all good news. Nano satellites, this is a big one. So our state is at the forefront of a world that is both shrinking and expanding. How many of you recall last year when there was an object in the sky that we all thought was, it caused traffic delays, it caused people pulling over. We had tons of stuff come up on Facebook. It was actually one of these rockets that was launched carrying these 2.9-pound nanosats. So there were, at that point, 64 of them that were launched into space with that flight. That same rocket was recovered and has been used 2 more times. And just not quite 2 weeks ago was another launching. 67 of these went out. So, and they're coming out of Vandenberg and coming across and they're taking them into space and letting them go. Yes.
I mean,
So there's going to be 1,000 of them launched into space over the next 5 years. So why would they do that? Well, look at the 700 satellites that SpaceX is developing to supply internet across the world. How many of you are familiar with SpaceX? They're building a new facility in Texas, right? Actually, right on the border. I guess there's discussion now with Trump about that being right on the border. He doesn't want to move his building, but he also has a facility right here in Arizona. So, and they are producing these satellites. So they intend to supply internet across the world. Then we have O3B Networks investing $1 billion to launch low orbiting satellites for faster and greater internet access. They're saying we are going to have ubiquitous access, probably within the next year. What ubiquitous means, everybody 24/7, no matter where you live. You can live in a canyon, you can live behind mountains, you can live wherever, and you should be able to access through all of the connections of these satellites. Yes, sir.
Are we the only country that is launching?
Yeah, right now. Yes.
and Verizon goes out of business because can you hear me now?
Could be. Those ads will change. Although I love that commercial because I use that with my husband and my children a lot. Can you hear me now? Okay. So how does this impact Arizona? What do you think's happening in Arizona?
Growth.
Growth.
I mean, look at the inner lots being developed by smaller little investment groups, buying up all kinds of different vacant lots or teardowns, and then revamping them and rezoning them.
We're going to see huge changes inner city. Still, our inner city is the highest priced real estate. Why?
Convenience.
Convenience. It is convenience. So those prices are continuing to go up on a price per square foot basis. So I want to talk a little bit about population. Let's write this number down. There are 235 people moving into Arizona per day. 235. We are breaking records. So I have a good friend that I work with and I co-lead with on some classes, Tina Tambor. How many of you know Tina or have seen her? Yeah, Cromford Report. And she told me December there was going to be a lull in housing. And I said, well, you know what? There's December, actually from November, right? The holidays. I've lived here for 35 years in real estate. And there's always November and December is a calmer time.
I've got my busiest month in years.
It's amazing, isn't it?
I got 6 deals going right now.
It's amazing. That's great. Good for you. How many of you are working with buyers right now? Good. How many of you have listings? Good. This is good news. This is good news. Okay, so let's talk population. There's some unintended consequences that come with this kind of growth, right? So what are you noticing already?
Traffic.
Pardon me?
Traffic.
Traffic. right? Unbelievable traffic. Yeah. Pollution,
LA.
our quality of air, and it's not manufacturing. What is it? Cars. Yeah, it's our automobiles. What else? What else does that bring? What's another consequence of having this kind of growth? How about affordable housing?
Oh, yes.
Are you noticing that's disappearing?
Yep.
What about rents? Are rents going up?
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Availability of homes. Right? Okay. So population, our 2010 census said Arizona was probably, if I remember right, somewhere around 6.4 million. And they projected an average of 1% growth per year. In 2017, and I just want, the governor put out this number, 7,020,000. That's what that number represents. 7,020,000 was Arizona's population July 1 of 2017. So year end, that's when they produced this, was year end 2017. Their year end, which is June. So we still got another 6 months that we're looking at here, right? July through December. So at 7.2 million, how did we stack up? So at 1%, by mid-June, we had already, or mid-year, we had already beat the Census Bureau's 7,016,000. We'd already beat that. We were ahead of that by the middle of the year. 2018, we're well into the 7.2 million. 7.2 million already. 2019, we're going to blow it out of the water, and same with 2020. So if you're in this business, your stuff is set up and you're ready to go, you're going to have a really good year. Take advantage of it. That's what I'm going to tell you. Get ready to work and work hard. All right, let's talk about Maricopa County. So in 2015, Maricopa County got a call from the U.S. Census Bureau, said, your county numbers that you're reporting are just way off our projections. Are you sure they're accurate? Sure. Would you be willing to participate in an unofficial census? Maricopa said, sure, we'll do that. And they have done that since 2015. So in 2015, we were the #1 county nationwide of over 3,000 counties in our nation. I think there's 3,144, if I remember right. So somewhere in that number, don't hold me to it. So 2015, largest growing county in the nation. Then 2016, same thing. 2017, same thing, competing with one other county in 2017 in Arizona. Guess who that is?
Canal.
Pinal County. And 2018, we've been in the lead, although they're waiting for the numbers to come in end of December, because it looks like Pinal County might beat Maricopa this year.
Really?
So we will see. Yes. So where are they coming from? From Maricopa County, gained most of its new residents from people relocating from elsewhere in the United States. Who? California. I've been teaching pre-licensing for years, and it's the same thing. We audit those numbers every year. Our state's growth primarily comes from California. Now they're coming in droves. Have you noticed?
Yes.
Yes.
Supposed to be 500,000 people coming over from California.
Well, they're leaving California. My husband is a broker in California as well. He grew up there, so he has lots of family and friends. And his two most recent sales, he only does listings. His two most recent sales were just under 2 million for both properties. They were in beach cities, both older homes, gorgeous houses. I mean, just gorgeous beach bungalows. Very modernized, beautiful, beautiful locations. The people moving out were not leaving the state. They were just going to a larger property. They could not get a moving van. You know why?
They're all moving out.
The vans were being reserved for out-of-state moves because that was higher dollars. They had to rent pickup trucks.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, pickup trucks and street labor, load this pickup, take this. It took them 5 days, the last house, it took them 5 days to get moved out.
Oh my word.
Yeah. And they had contracted for several of those moving vans before that. And the day of the move, they canceled. One by one, they kept canceling for a period of 5 days. It was hairy. Okay, so they're coming from California. Relocation of clean industry and major companies, that's a big deal. That's our Arizona Commerce Authority. That's what they're doing, because these people moving in are literally bringing their top leadership, and they're hiring people, and they're providing labor for us in this state. Natural growth by having more births than deaths. What's happening with births and deaths? What do you think is happening? They're not.
But we're living longer.
And we are living longer. Yes. So we're living longer, and there's fewer children being born. Can you stop the texting, please? I'm sorry. You came in a little late, but that's kind of a break of the rules. I'll give you time at break. Thank you. International migration. Where's that coming from? What country is spending so much money buying
China.
real estate here?
I was gonna say China.
China. China, number one. So last year, China's primary focus was California, Texas, Florida, and New York. This year, it's still California, Arizona, Florida, and New York. I think Florida might change just because they've had so much devastation lately. But I'm waiting to see the numbers on that one. They haven't come out yet. So here's an interesting thing. I told you my husband sells in, his last two was in Southern California. The two houses that he sold, he knew the neighborhood. He knew the folks that lived there. So he gets a call on the first house about 6-7 weeks after it closed. Hey, where are these people moving in? We're concerned about this property. Nobody's living there. We never see anybody coming or going, and the landscaping is dying. The rest of the neighborhood's looking pretty ratty just because of this one property. Okay, I'll call the broker and find out. Calls the broker. Broker says, nope, they're not moving in. They will never occupy the property. Are they going to rent it? Nope, they're not going to rent it. Why'd they buy it? He says, well, they're just investing in the state. Here's what we've uncovered.
Oh my gosh.
In order to open a bank account, in order to transfer funds from China, and China's tightening that up now for all their residents, in order for them to transfer money, they have to have residents established before they can open a bank account. They can transfer money to close on that property. Then once they get the bank account set, they can transfer more money in. But so the only way they can beat the system now is if they have a ton of people in these families buying a ton of houses. And that's what they've done. And they've opened up bank accounts, and they've been transferring money into the US. And they have no intention of moving into the properties, probably if ever. Well, guess what's coming to Arizona?
Okay.
Have any of you seen that yet?
Yeah.
It's happening. Gilbert, Chandler, Mesa, South Phoenix, they're spending, I think their top number for Arizona is about 300,000 right now. So they're buying more houses for less money. The only challenge to them is that the transfer of money to close, because they send cash. Their cash gets deposited very early on in the escrow, even before they do their inspections. Their intent is to buy the property.
So
So
they
there
need
are
to buy one
houses.
of my listings in.
Yeah. Well, there's a
It's
couple
a
of
city.
large LLCs here in the valley that literally represent these people. That's what they do. They buy properties for them. So the agents in that I was teaching at in Gilbert a couple of weeks ago have sold some of these, and that's exactly what's happening. The houses are that all the landscape is dying. So if there was grass, whatever there is, there's no water, there's no utilities, there's nothing. Yes.
What about the rule or law that was put in effect about 25 years ago in Phoenix, and I think all the other cities have it too, that if you have any overgrown vegetation, the property's running down, they report it and they have to get it cleaned up?
And if they don't get it cleaned up, they'll send in a crew to do it, and then they'll bill you.
Yeah.
So they'll put liens against the property. That's what's going to happen. But in the meantime, it
They're
continues.
buying it in HOA. The HOA is going to require. them
HOA
to-
does the same thing. Yeah, that's how it's going to get addressed. Yeah, but it's got some people upset. But it's coming. It's coming to a neighborhood near you. I'm just telling you.
Wow.
You're going to get it. And here's a great one, retention of our university grads.
Yep.
So we have our 3 universities are the top in the nation. We have the highest enrollment across the nation. And now with all of these new companies and industries moving in, they can afford to provide jobs to these people. And all of our grads have loved Arizona and wanted to stay in Arizona because we're convenient to a lot of different things and a lot of different kinds of sporting activities. So we're able to keep our brain pool because now they have jobs that will support their families.
Well, look what Grand
Arizona's-
Canyon University has done too.
Pardon me?
Grand Canyon University, look what they have done.
Yes. And let me just tell you that Arizona is like 3rd in the nation as of this year for increases in salaries to individuals. So your average income today, for one person, is just under $80,000. Just under $80,000 annual income.
What type of job
Yeah.
though? Is
That's
that a
the
management?
average. No, that's an average, meaning they take the lowest to the highest. So some of them are paid even higher than that. Yeah. Look at your book of lists. I don't know how many of you follow the Phoenix Business Journal. Excellent resource for who gets paid what. There's some really high paying jobs coming into this state, and we're starting to see the impact of that. So if 80,000 is the average from lowest to highest based on our population, that's pretty darn good.
That's,
Second largest is Pinal County for all of the same reasons, all those reasons. So why are they looking at Pinal County? What's the big deal in Pinal?
Affordable.
Land, and it's affordable. It's affordable land. And here's a big deal. And I'm going to give you some information that the other class didn't get. So look at our interstates here, right? So I just learned that China has built off of Rocky Point. Everybody been to Rocky Point, right? Yes, that's where I got my diving certification. Water depth there is like 40 feet. You know, they had to go way out, but China has built ports, ship ports, way out off the coast of Mexico. And they're bringing all the goods in, right? How many of you have been watching what's happening with the new NAFTA? How many of you know about Highway 11? Write that down, Google this. Highway 11 connects Colorado to Mexico. When we didn't have an agreement, I thought it was over. It was not going to happen. All that work started in Las Vegas, in Nevada. All that freeway work, that's Highway 11. All of that rerouting, they're going to reroute through Boulder City, take you down and out, so you're not crossing the big bridge now, because all that's for transport of goods from Mexico to Canada. And as it comes, so they're going to bring it in from the ports, the wet port, into the dry ports in Rocky Point, load it on trucks, bring it into Arizona, to our distribution centers that line Baseline Road, right? And they're going to distribute those goods and send those trucks out going east and west, north, and then distribute it even further out on all of our interstates. That's the strategy. That is the strategy. So if you look at the industrial park that went out way on the west side, there's a couple of companies out there that have the international licensing for import and export of goods. Yes, they read those trucks. It's amazing what's happening in our state. So they've got coming into 10, you've got 8, you can continue on up through Phoenix. I don't know if they're going to use the 303. I think it's probably going to be 17. I can't tell from Arizona's not disclosing their maps yet. And I don't know why, but I will tell you something else. So Bill Gates, smart city, 18 months ago, right? Purchased, I don't remember, 3,800 acres of land to build Belmont. That's the name of that smart city, Belmont. And all of the plans have been at the county. It's all there. What have they been waiting on? Disagreement. They're waiting now on Congress to approve what we're calling the new NAFTA.
you said NAFTA?
NAFTA, N-A-F-T-A. It's the new NAFTA. What does that stand for? I don't even remember anymore. It was so long ago it got developed. National, what was it?
Fair trade.
North American Fair Trade Act. Yeah.
Isn't Trump trying to change that?
Well, we have an agreement with Canada and Mexico, yes, and what he changed was the tariffs, because he says we were getting it in the back end on that, like so many of our other agreements. I don't know the numbers. And so he's got the signed agreement, but what has to happen now?
Congress.
Yeah. So pray for that. Once that happens, then Bill Gates is launching. And that's going to be awesome. Awesome stuff. Okay. I did get this map updated. These guys are very, very slow giving me my information. This will take, this is single family permits from June of 2018 to June of 2017, a comparison. And I should have the third quarter maps, but they're not out yet. So what I want to tell you about this particular map is, first of all, if you will recall, 18 months ago, builders were building no inventory, right? There was no inventory available. Now what do we have?
So much.
Almost waiting list.
We have inventory. Why do you think they're building inventory now?
Preparing for growth.
Economy's been up.
Yes. Watch those
Demand.
signs. They know people are coming here. And in fact, this year, their sales through real estate agents, it only averages about 9% annually through real estate agents. That's up almost 11% in this quarter. So if you're not visiting these new home developments and checking out their inventory and building relationships with those new home sales agents, you need to put this on your list. They are paying nice co-broke fees.
And they do all the work.
And they do the work. They do the work. So get to know these people, build relationships, learn their product, find out what their registration process is. This is good for your business coming up. Just saying. So they put out a map of where
More
there's
than 3%.
No, but it's
I don't-
3% with, there's not 2.5.
some will.
Some will on their
Some
spec
will
homes,
honor
they might honor
bonuses
3.5
also.
to-
Yeah, it's all negotiable, right? Yes, let's not violate Sherman antitrust. It's all negotiable. Okay, so here's what I want to tell you about this. This is from the builder community. They project where they're going to be building in the future based on historical data. And that's why I don't have those latest maps, because they're still collecting all the data on that. The earlier map, I can just tell you that from the first quarter to the second quarter, Arizona gained over 4% growth in the second quarter of 2018 compared to where we were last year. There were some major states that went down. So I don't know if you can see it. I will send you all these slides if you leave me a business card with slides on it, because I turn that in to my assistant and she sends them out. Otherwise, I've missed the people. I have missed a few people because she doesn't read the evaluations. No, she sends those right to the department. Idaho, the first quarter was over 43% single family resident growth.
Wow.
Permits. Why? What happened? It was in Boise, Idaho. What happened?
There's something going on there that I just heard. I can't
Smart city. A smart city got built. A smart city. Wasn't Bill Gates. I don't know whose it was, but there was a smart city built in Boise. California, first quarter, was almost 30%. They're down to 15% now. But they're still building there. In certain areas, they are still building. Interestingly enough, most of the folks moving there are young, technically based graduates, really young people. So corporations like Google, Apple, some of the other big names, what they do is they develop an entire area where there's kitchens, there's showers, there's locker rooms, there's TV rooms, there's work rooms, there's laundry rooms, because these people can't afford to pay rent. They're sleeping in their cars to go to work at these companies, to get that on their resume. That's what they're doing. And it's highly competitive. We have master's degree graduates out of ASU that are not even considered in California. The competition is huge. And Arizona's competing with that same thing, our technological pool, brain power. But they're still doing it. So at this thing I was at 6 weeks ago, they had a broker from San Francisco. And he's the one that was telling us about how all these young people are moving into California because it is the dream to work for some of these companies. And they will give up everything to be able to do this. And he said after a couple of years, then they call him. And he can find them a $1.2 to $1.4 million, 900 square foot condo, 2-bedroom, 1 bath with no parking. Yeah, pretty cool. And they're thrilled. They're thrilled with that. I hope when they go to resell, they can get their value out. I don't know. That scares me. The other interesting thing is Nevada was 16% and actually beating Arizona. So in the first quarter of this year, Californians leaving California, their first choice was Nevada. Second choice was Arizona. Third choice was Florida. So let me tell you what this map reads. The green here, this dark green, 6% of growth or greater. The yellow means less than 6%, but growing. The red is declining, not growing, people leaving, not returning. Very little switch in population. So you can see what's happened to Oregon. Washington is way down 6.2. We're going to see a lot of people from Washington coming in to the
Already
state.
have.
Yeah, this one already has. I had someone in my class the other day, same thing.
Just the research that we get that they're now #1 over California.
Washington is? Yeah. Colorado in the first quarter was at 38%. That's dropped now to 26%. And I don't know about you, but when Colorado legalized their recreational marijuana, I had 3 different property owners call me within a 2-week period. And they said, we're packed, we're loaded, we're going. Kids,
It's
dogs,
horrible.
ducks, everything's loaded. Put our house on the market. We left the key under the mat. 3 houses. I sold them all. I sold all 3 of them in a very short period of time, mostly containing their furniture because they did not move it. They left their furniture and a lot of their personal stuff, which I did have to move. I had to move it out. I had one guy call me, needs to come back. He's moving back. I said, what are you coming back for? Our values are up now. You're going to get the same house. It's going to cost you more than we sold for. Well, he said, I've got the same thing here. He said, the neighborhood we bought into was really, really great. It's really declining, but the values are skyrocketing because of the population expansions. We can't afford to move up, and we can't stay here because of the crime rate. We got kids.
Oh,
We're coming back
That's
to Arizona. I was in Colorado.
yeah, Colorado's
Denver.
crazy.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Denver?
Yeah, Denver area.
Yeah, Denver.
Denver area. I don't know because I don't live there. I will tell you too, New Mexico is at 22%. It was at 38%. I'm a native New Mexican. That's an agricultural state. That's why I'm in Arizona, because I like to work. They're not industry friendly. So what do you think is promoting their growth? Any thoughts? Think agriculture.
The algae place.
Marijuana.
Oh, no.
Marijuana. And let's talk about the tribal lands right up here. We have a huge Navajo Indian reservation. What do you think they're growing?
Oh, no.
Yes.
What is
yes. Hmm?
Marijuana.
What?
Marijuana and peyote. Yes,
As-
they are. It's becoming a huge market.
I
Now,
thought
in
we-
Arizona, you cannot receive or ship outside. It's internal distribution, at least so far. Who knows what's going to happen? But you need to keep an eye on that. So what I want to just show you quickly on this map, the red states are definitely declining populations. People are leaving those areas. And the yellow states, very slow growth. Look at where your green states are. And even Hawaii, they're down almost 6% below the average. Alaska was at 38% in the first quarter. I don't know why. I couldn't tell you why. You can't grow marijuana there. So I can't figure that one out. But now they're down to about 12% right now. So China, look at where China was investing. Coastal state. Access to a coastal state is now Arizona and then New York, the little green way up at the top. And remember in 2016, Russia invested $90 billion just into the city of New York. The city, not the state. That's the whole state up there in the green. So for China, let me just tell you, they own AMC theaters. They bought it last year. They own all of the AMC theaters. They will have invested in commercial and single family development. From 2016 to 2020, they are estimating $213 billion. That came out of a Chinese publication that went into Singapore. Yeah, it was in English, so I could read it. I'll share it with you. Largest employer, state of Arizona, full and part-time at 39,000. This is a concern for me. should be for you because we started when our current commissioner came into office, which was mid 2009. She had 78 employees and 2 locations here and 1 in Tucson, right? Now she has 28,
That's not.
1 location. They've moved down to 15th Avenue, just north of Washington. So they are no longer at 44th Street and Thomas. They told me that people are still coming into that office down there that they don't know that they've moved. The challenge is that 75% of her staff has been eligible for retirement for over 5 years. She is not allowed, there's a freeze on government hiring. She's not allowed to hire. So there's no training being taken place. She's utilized technology is the only way that this department has been able to supply our growing population of licensees. Banner Health is number 2, then Walmart number 3. And I say this every time because I've offended a few people. I would love to see Walmart drop even lower on that list, right? Why? And I'm nothing against Walmart, honestly.
So that other businesses are showing growth.
Yes, and higher wages, growth and higher wages, right?
Yep.
People that work at Walmart, they're getting great training. I'm not bashing Walmart. They provide good entry-level training for customer service, utilization of tools, that kind of thing. And one woman who was deeply offended by my comment said that someday they might give me a job as a Walmart greeter. And they might. I hope that's not my future, but it might be. You know, I might see you all at Walmart sometime. But the point is, I believe in our industry. What we do is honorable work. It is tough to help those people.
They can't buy a house.
Economically,
They can't buy
They
a house.
cannot buy a house. They can't. It's very difficult. But look at the other salaries, and I want these people to grow. Raytheon Missiles added 1,000 people in the first 6 months of this year.
Sweet.
Yeah, that's good money. And then you can see all the other health stuff. So I'm waiting to see what the new numbers are coming out. Good news for us. Okay, here's what you need to know. 21,266 single-family building permits were issued in the greater Metro Phoenix area through the end of October of this year. What that means for you is that builders are building inventory because they are anticipating sales. That's the only reason they do it anymore. And greater Metro Phoenix means parts of Pinal is included in those numbers. Your future growth, 2019, I'm already developing my class for that, is going west. Just so you know, Buckeye and further west. Buckeye, great area of growth because they have this huge underground storage of water that is outside an AMA. So there's water. Next, buyer traffic has increased. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Yes. And home prices are adjusting downward. Are you noticing that?
No.
I'm seeing it everywhere. Maybe not a lot, sometimes only 2,000 or 4,000, but they're coming down because they've lingered on the market, right? And they got to get a fresh face. Some of them are staying on the market a little bit longer. They're competing with some of the new builds. Inventory is low. Would you agree?
Oh, yes.
Rising interest rates are driving home equity lines of credit. Are you guys getting those calls? Yeah, I am too. If you've got equity in your property right now, because our values have gone up, they want you to take out a loan. Don't do it.
But that's not become tax
Don't do it.
deductible anymore.
Right. Well, even worse than that, that got a lot of people in trouble.
Right.
I saw a lot of people lose their homes. Most popular price ranges continue to be 350,000 and below. Would you agree?
Yes.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about Arizona, and then we're going to take the licensing, and then we're going to take a quick break. So broker and salesperson right now, 73,095 currently licensed in the state, compared to last month with 72,893. So that doesn't look like a huge increase, but we are actually licensing 600 people a day. We are testing more than 1,300. 1,300 are passing. So that other 700, what do you think they're doing with? They're not activating a license. What are they doing?
Going back to
Buying and
school.
selling themselves.
They're what?
Are they doing it themselves?
Yeah. They're doing fix and flips without a license. Why without a license?
They can't.
Because
They
they're
can.
not ethical.
I don't know if they're not ethical, but it's because the if you have a license, your liability is higher on that. And there's certain restrictions. Without the license, they have the knowledge. They're going to school to get the knowledge. They measure it by taking the test. And now they're opening their LLCs and they're fixing and flipping properties. So the things you have to be careful of is that there's laws that say that if they do a lot of major work on a property, it needs to be done by a licensed contractor, because the complaints that are going to the AG's office now is that the shoddy workmanship, which is failing within the first couple of months of the purchase of some of these properties. Yes.
So they're going to real estate school, but they're not getting a license.
Not getting a license.
What's the purpose of the real estate school?
So that they have the knowledge and the information, so that they know what they're required to do. I think they also are looking, real estate licensing is the rule book, right? And then you get into the business and you get the playbook. This is how we play the game, right? They're only getting the rule book. I think they take the classes assuming that they're going to get both, and they don't. But they do get some information and some knowledge, which is important to them. And I'm hoping will keep them out of trouble. But the fact that they took the test shows the state and will show up in a court of law that they had an advanced knowledge if they pass that test. They had an advanced knowledge, so they do have an obligation to the consumers. And that's really the purpose of licensing, is to protect the consumer. So we have these LLCs coming up. We have people, there's a lot of students in there that take the class because they're anticipating inheriting a lot of real estate wealth, and they want to know how to manage it. I had one tell me not too long ago, he wanted to know that his agent was doing what he was supposed to be doing. And that's why he took the class. So you're being watched. Here's another number that you should know. This 5,026, this is up over 5,000 for the first time in probably a couple of years. I've watched this one closely. It's those folks in the grace period. That's important to you, because the actual numbers that the commissioner quotes is this last number here, almost 87,000 licensees, because they are licensed. But it's actually only about 81,000. Where were we in July when we crashed in 2007? How many licensees did we have in the state? Who knows?
Wasn't it over 90,000?
Yeah, it was close to 98,000. Close to 98,000 licensees, and we were licensing 1,800 a month. We are now licensing 600. But it's because this group here is falling out that is adjusting those numbers over here. So we're losing about 400 people per month.
That's the loan.
Yeah, 1 second, I'll finish this slide and we'll be done. Look at this white column here. I want you to notice self-employed brokers in the grace period, 269. Limited liability companies in the grace period, 228. Corporations, 84 in their grace period. People are being bought up, so there's mergers and acquisitions, and other people are just shutting down. So a lot of transition in our marketplace. Take your break. Be back in 15 minutes. Yes, sir.
Grace period?
Grace period is where your license has expired. You have 12 months to complete your continuing education, load it into your page, pay your licensing fee and penalty, and reactivate with a broker.
So you'll be able to get your license, start school in April
Online,
online?
it's 90 hours.
What does that do to real estate schools?
I don't know that it's going to do a whole lot. The online requirements are a little more stringent. I think most of the people that are going to be taking those classes are going to be out of state because it saves them the travel time. But for local, most real estate schools, their primary income is continuing education. Yeah. You have a few of the, like Arizona School of Real Estate and Business. I taught there for years. Their salesperson is up and down. It's up and down. Right now it's up. Everybody wants the education. But in the down market, it's not that busy. So they really rely on their CE.
Hey, I'm in that CE class. The code of ethics. And no, that's the only one by the end of December. And then I'm gonna, no, that was it. And then I'm going to get my shots. Oh, good. What did it say? What did it say? Okay, yeah, I think he just ordered it, so they haven't contacted the appraiser yet. Okay, so yeah, just stand that. Yes, thank you. I went through all that. See, the thing is, as soon as I meet with the two girls, as soon as I get there and I meet with them, Incan has everything. You know, she's like, yes, over the top. Okay, I think we're, yeah, just check the email and let me know. Text me if something comes up. Okay, thanks. Okay, bye.
All right, how we doing? That's awesome. Last time we were broadcasting, I guess it overloaded our Wi-Fi and it stopped broadcasting halfway through.
Oh, wow.
It's a good problem to have, you know. We had a good turnout, but I guess less people are using the internet today. It's awesome.
It's amazing. We're living in an unbelievable market right now.
We know.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. 'Cause I keep getting emails and different sources, and they're talking about, oh, another bubble's coming.
Yeah.
But yet when you look at this here, it's not indicating.
Not for Arizona. I think it will hit some states. That's my argument with Tina.
You know,
She thinks we're definitely going to be impacted by it. I'm not seeing anything. I would like it to spread out and balance out. I don't want
I'll
to get
take
into
tomorrow at
the stuff
2:30.
that we had before.
well, right. Nobody wants to see that again.
Yeah. But I don't think we're going to be as impacted as we used to be.
You know,
and
interest
much.
rates, you know, obviously going up, it's going to slow down. But yet at the same time, the projection and forecast is,
people have to
as they
have a
say,
place
you
to
know, as a
live.
captain of the ship, steady ahead.
Yeah. And you know, you can almost buy a house today for the same amount as rent, and in some cases better.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So there's a lot of reasons that people should be buying right now, especially with some of the loan programs there are. And even with
Assisted
interest
down
rates
payment
going up,
programs and
yeah,
everything.
there's great assisted down payment programs that lenders don't teach enough on. I'd love to have more information on that.
Because they're limited to the amount of yield they can.
So
Right.
So
Right.
they
Well,
they
and
don't-
some of them are tougher, you know, and they're tougher to get. That's part of the
I guess
reason.
advertising in high times is
So.
a good option now. Apparently they buy and sell homes.
Who's that?
Said I need to put an ad in high times or something like that because apparently they buy and sell lots of homes. I didn't even hit that demographic of potheads.
Oh, really? High times?
Oh, high times. Oh,
Like the
high.
magazine.
Oh,
Oh, well, you know, we're competing now with Zillow listings. Somebody was telling me the other day that that they only sold buyer and seller leads, and I said, no, I've shown Zillow listings. I've been showing Zillow listings.
Mm-hmm.
Tough to deal with, I will tell you, really tough to deal with. I had a buyer that there are two choices for a home. First choice was an open door.
oh, that's not bad. They're easy to work
Open
with.
door. Oh, this was tough.
Oh, was it?
Well, it was for this buyer. I think it would have gone okay. But they were, that's the other thing about millennials is that they have a lot of fear around buying a house. So they get a lot of advice, a lot more than their parents ever did. They went through, they watched their parents go through really tough times. And that was the case with these kids. I call them kids, they're, almost 40. And they actually submitted their offer, and there was a counter because Open Door wanted them to waive the SPDS. There was no seller property disclosure statement. Then they wanted them to waive the right to bring action against Open Door if there was a future problem on the house. Well, guess what? Zillow's doing the same thing. And these guys just said, no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. We'll find a house that's not listed with either of these
That's
two
what the
companies.
banks used to do. They used to,
Yes.
the banks used to do that with the short
Was it
sales.
Zillow that Vegas just got rid of and then immediately brought back, like within like a day?
Well, they weren't licensed. They had to get licensed in Nevada. And same here. They were here, then they had to leave because they were in violation of the law.
Well-
Now they're licensed in Arizona.
Well, I thought kind of talk about just the syndication. I thought didn't Vegas board like they actually got rid of Zillow and then they brought him back like within a day because they like in the election or whatever, like the realtors voted to actually get rid of them. But then
Really?
a slew of realtors who
Oh,
are
I'd like to
relying
know
on
more
them.
about that.
Yeah.
They said that the MLS wouldn't transfer over to Zillow like that. Stop doing that.
It doesn't transfer right. It doesn't.
Right.
That's why a lot of their information is
Can I
wrong.
just borrow this so we can write down my things for
Well, they weren't
Oh,
used
yeah.
to-
I just want to make sure everybody signed it.
Okay.
Yeah. And
So yeah,
I
is
thought it was,
everybody
I
back?
thought it was
Do we
an
have
can
it
ask
awesome kind of ballsy move.
There is
Yeah.
internet here, and
Yes,
maybe
it's
Property.
Property.
through, yes,
Yeah,
admin
property.
and property.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
Training?
training.
Training.
Yes.
just make sure that
For such
everybody
a small
signed
office,
that.
we
That's,
shouldn't
and
need
yes, you can
3
have that.
different Wi-Fis.
So you know that NAR move.com and NAR sued Zillow. I don't know if you know that. It was a huge lawsuit. It lasted for about 3 years. And that's
We
why
lost that.
and Zillow, we actually won. That was kind of settled out of court. There were certain things we won, but we did give them IDX approval. However, their system is so antiquated, it does not upload information correctly. And that's why agents are having a really hard time. There's 2 things that they do that's a violation. So you're going to hear more about this in the future. First of all, the data, the information is not uploading correctly. So you might have a 4-bedroom, but it's showing up as a 3-bedroom, or it might have 2,200 square feet and it's showing up as 2,800 square feet. There's a suspicion that that's deliberate to encourage calls, fishing for buyers.
Always err on the
Oh.
higher
So then
side.
they get to sell that buyer lead to someone else. So that's currently
Higher
being
sizes, lower
investigated.
prices.
They
Oh,
had
geez.
a description of one of mine, that beautiful backyard with luscious grass. There was no grass. I sent it to my seller, and they're like, "Enjoy your barbecue in the backyard with this luscious." And they're like, "What is this?" I'm like, "I didn't put that."
That's hand entered.
down."
They've got somebody actually putting that data in.
Well, yeah, it was just random though, because they didn't see the backyard. Backyard was dirt.
Yeah.
It creates a lot of confusion. I do property management. My owners see their listings and they're saying, you need to change it. And I have to say, I can't hardly do anything with it. It's because Zillow just has what Zillow does.
Yeah.
you know?
Well, they're getting complaints now.
Yeah.
But they were sued because of all this misinformation that was going out. And they weren't given permission to use the IDX. And the reason they weren't is because they didn't have the capability to upload accurately. So they would take our information off MLS and they were paying people to do data entry. And it was all wrong. If any of you had listings on Zillow, I mean, I had one for 2 years that had sold that still showed active,
Yeah.
that my seller just ringed me all the time. Get that off Zillow. I've got people driving by my house, taking pictures of the front of my house. I could not get them to do anything. It took 2 years.
Or it's for rent, it was never ever.
And it was never for rent. Well, that's Craigslist too. We got that coming up.
Yeah, 2008.
So
Yeah.
that's
Sold, but there's some
People-
things for rent and active.
Yeah.
If you're not a Zillow subscriber, I have had, a list of all
Yeah.
my properties that I sold.
I got 2
They
listings
take them
in
all off. It
sitting
shows that
here
I've only
today.
had like 3 sales.
Right,
Right.
They
because
just,
they don't monitor that for us.
Because you're
That's
not,
right.
you're not a client. You're
Right,
not buying their
have
leads.
I keep having my
You're not
assistant
buying their
upload.
leads. Everything's
Right.
worth money.
And
But I
it's
will tell you, if
so
your listing is
falsified,
posted on
it's
there,
just-
it has to acknowledge courtesy of your broker. And that's the other thing they're going after for
I
right
say
now.
no.
Because they're not acknowledging that listing belongs to your firm. And that's not only a violation of the code of ethics, it's a violation of our state law.
When you're probably going to cover that. When we do ads, like for example, like Real Geeks platform does Facebook ads, are we now required to put that the listing brokerage is on every single picture page, no matter what?
That's always been the case.
Okay.
It has always been the case. That's not a change. It's just that people haven't done it.
Well, now we have the 3 options, and I was making sure that we had to choose that one every single time because I don't think it defaulted to it. So I need to make sure my agents are doing that
Get it
properly.
defaulted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
So if you guys are ready, we'll get started again. We've got a lot of material to cover. I just want to make sure everybody signed the sign-in roster. If you signed the sign-out roster, I had actually Tatiana whited out your name because before the end of the class, I have to have you sign in again. So I've got our sign-out. I've got the sign-out here. So did everybody sign the sign-in? Okay. So don't leave here without a certificate, okay? And you can't leave until 11:45. So I got to talk fast.
Okay. Can we do our quick thing?
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Oh, I'm rolling.
Well, you're an awesome teacher.
Go
You
ahead.
just keep,
Yes,
it's
please.
awesome.
Yes.
Doesn't she have awesome information?
Yes.
Yeah.
Great.
Well, again, I'm Josh. I'm the DB here at Breakthrough. Thanks again for taking the time to come by. We love having these classes throughout 2019. We're going to try to make it a point to basically offer all your continuing ed at our office. But I'm excited to announce that we're going to be moving next door. Hopefully within the next 2 weeks. So starting in January, you will be coming to our new office. It's way better than this one. Let's just say that. So if anybody wants a tour, they're finishing up the flooring and stuff today. So if anybody wants to come by, take a look after class, I'd love to show you. We do have if you're a 100% agent, we offer 100% plans. If you want leads, assistants, ISAs, contract coordinators, we have for all that too. So I would love to speak to anybody who would like more information. And we also do property management. So really quick, I'll let Dad mention property management. That's Mike.
We have a property management division that offers residual income to all of our any agent that refers the property over. As long as that property is there and you're a licensed agent, you get a commission off of that. And then that includes referrals, sending over maybe multifamily buildings as well as single family detached or small complexes. Secondly, if anybody has any interest in picking up some office furniture, we have a different kind of situation going on over there. We'll be selling several of our desks and perhaps even one of our conference tables. So if you're interested in that, see me. I think that's it.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Yeah, let's give him a hand. I'm always grateful for people that sponsor continuing education. I'm always in the classroom, believe it or not. Ever since I started in this industry, I never felt like 24 hours every 2 years kept me up to date on what I needed to know to deliver the services that I need to deliver to the client. Okay, our promise, rules of the road, NAR code. So what we're going to cover here, and all of you remember when you went through your first orientation, you signed a document. That was your promise to uphold the code of ethics. So we're going to review the code, business ethics that followed, and pathways to professionalism. So things that I'm required to cover for this to be a legitimate class. We're going to do a little bit of history. We're going to talk about the National Association of Real Estate Exchangers, which actually became NAR. We're going to talk about certain articles of the Code of Ethics that are most currently violated right now. Preamble, under all is the land, which is one of my favorite readings. Article 17, there's 17 articles in our code. And then we have standards of practice that explain the article. I think I have to take you back a little bit so that you can understand what was going on in our country. Prior to the 1900s, we had absolutely no real estate licensing law. There was no law anywhere in our nation. pre-1900s. We did have people that would rent out rooms, even rent out beds by the hour, would rent houses, would sell houses. They were known as street peddlers. They would stand on the street. They did not have an office. They would have a slip of paper with a little bit of information about a property, and they would hawk their wares, you know, buy now, rent now, need a place to live, that kind of thing. They did not like each other. They were very territorial. They all had territories. This was my street. This is my block. You don't come over here. So they were very secretive about what they had available. They also took advantage of the public because we had huge immigration during this period of time. This was the Industrial Revolution. We had started manufacturing mass goods all over our country, such as it was. Railroad was going from east to west, west to east. They were going to meet, right? I love to brag about Hell on Wheels, AMC's series. Did you see that one? It's on Netflix. I'm telling you, you watch it once, you'll have to watch it again. It was great because a lot of accuracy in there, a lot about the speculation, land speculation, government misuse of taxpayers' dollars, and corruption. So it was really a great time, a great series to watch. So no pre-licensing, no real estate people, a lot of speculation, a lot of exploitation disorder. And the exploitation was many of these people would rent an apartment, hand a key over to someone, take their money, person goes to the property, and guess what? Someone's there, or the key doesn't work, not available, they can't get in. And they had no one to go to. There were no laws, so there was no court that could address their concerns. And the court system was already full with all kinds of misdemeanors of various kinds. So they'd go back to the street peddler, right? Where was he?
Gone.
In the local tavern, right? Tipping a pint, because he had their money and he wasn't going to show up for a couple of days. Caveat emptor governed all transactions then, buyer beware. I'm concerned that a lot of our states are going to be returning to that based on what's happening in our industry, but this was certainly what existed then. So this will give you an idea. This is downtown New York, one of the boroughs. So another one of my favorite movies, Gangs of New York, right? 5 gangs, 5 boroughs that came together. It depicts exactly what was happening then. We were bringing in 500 people a day through Ellis Island. The people coming off the ships, every possession they owned in suitcases that they could drag or carry or stack up or bundles. And they get off, they go through Ellis Island, they get into New York City, and what are they looking for?
Shelter.
Shelter, water, food. These people were literally living on the streets. There were no places to live. There were no places to occupy. You can see here all of the street vendors here. And this is exactly how the real estate, the peddler would do. And you can see the overcrowding. Look at all the laundry hanging out. And this is full of two-way buggy and cart traffic, right? Wagons, two-way traffic there. Crazy. Here's the numbers you need to remember. So we think about 235 people a day moving into Arizona. It's nothing in comparison to what that tiny, tiny city and state had to endure. So the Census Bureau came out in 1900. Their population, the city of New York, was 3,437,000. By the end of the decade, the next census, guess what that number was? 14 million.
Whoa.
14 million people in New York City at the end of the decade. And they were coming from other countries. And all of our immigration was not coming into Ellis Island through New York. We had people coming into Canada and dropping down into the Dakotas to come into the country. So you can just imagine what was happening here. So a few things I'd like to talk about, a little bit of the history so that you get an idea of what was happening then, because we take advantage, we take for granted all the stuff we have today. One of my favorite series to watch is Friends, because it helps me to understand my kids. I have children in that generation. But I just finished the series again not too long ago. No flat screen TVs. They didn't have cell phones until the last 3 or 4 years of the series. There were no cell phones in there. So they were running into phone booths or on the phone at home. If you watch that series again, it's really kind of interesting to see how it's only been like 18 years. I think it ended in 2003, and they all had cell phones then, and they could use them on the planes too. It was no big deal in the movie anyway, or in the series. But the point is, lots of things change. And back then, there were some things being produced in our country, names you will recognize and remember. So I'm going to go back pre-1900s, 1884, Eastman developed the first strip film. Yeah, Eastman, name you still know today.
Kodak.
Waterman, yeah, Eastman Kodak. Waterman developed the first fountain pen. Dr. John Pemberton invents a secret recipe that he later sold. You know what that was?
Chicken noodle soup.
Coca-Cola. Yes. What was the secret recipe? It had cocaine in it. It had cocaine. In fact, he became an addict from his own recipe. And he sold the recipe for like $1,500 to Coca-Cola. And of course, they had to take
They had the coca in it for
a while.
For a while.
They did. Hertz invented the first radar machine. John Dunlop developed the first pneumatic tire in 1888. I don't even know if they had cars then. The first escalator came about in 91 by Otis. Rudolf Diesel launched the first diesel-fueled combustion engine. Here's a name you'll recognize. Nikola Tesla patented the first alternating current motor and transformer, which revolutionized the use of electricity, gauging volume and amperage in electricity. And my husband's favorite, this was in 1893, the first banana cream filled Twinkie at the market. Yeah, I still find the wrappers under the seat. He thinks I don't know. Then early in the 1900s, Carrier invented and launched the first air conditioner. Crayola crayons hit the market. Wright brothers flew the first gas-operated airplane. Albert Einstein's theory of relativity hit in 1905. And in 1906, we had the first boxed cereal. What was it?
Cornflakes?
Wheaties?
Cheerios.
It was cornflakes. Who made it? Kellogg's. Yeah. Where did it come from?
Midwest.
Corn.
Minnesota.
Battle Creek, Michigan. Battle Creek, Michigan. And Kellogg was the guy that dedicated all that land that you see Cal Poly Institute on today. That was his Arabian horse ranch. That was all dedicated to Cal Poly as long as they keep the Arabian ranch operating. Yeah. They developed in 1906, sonar was developed and TV tubes were made.
Ooh.
You know when we had our first television was in the 1930s. Amazing. Plastic was invented, and we were making waxed paper straws then. They were being wound. Remember? We're probably going back to that. The first Model T came out in 1908, known as the 410 Lizzie, and my mom's favorite in 1909, instant coffee. So that gives you, and those were big things back then. That was a big deal. So imagine all these people coming into one major city, all this growth coming in. Guys, people were leaving the farms to come into the cities to get jobs, to work in the factories then. Farms were being abandoned. So housing was a major need, major need. Well, there was a group of these guys in Chicago, Illinois, that decided that something had to be done about all this speculation and corruption. People were being ripped off and they had no place to go. So let's do something about it. So they met on May 12th, 1908 at the YMCA in Chicago. And their objective was to unite the real estate men of America for the purpose of effectively exerting a combined influence upon matters affecting real estate interests. Yes, notice, no women allowed. No women allowed. And they had talked to as many people as they could reach out to in neighboring states to try to get interest. Amazingly, there were 120 people showed up that became members of the new organization. 19 boards got developed. There was already one existing state association that showed up at that meeting. Who can tell me who that association was?
Illinois.
California. California.
Really?
Well, yes, they'd had the big earthquake and fire in 1906. So they had developed a real estate association to try to help people find housing. The very thing that New York was trying to deal with, only from a disaster level. So they already had an association that was made up of people that worked specifically in housing. And now it is the California Association of Realtors. So they were to bring honor to the work. And when I tell you that your job is an honorable job, you need to start living it exactly that way. What you do is honorable work. We are a profession. We're a profession. We're not labor. We are profession, meaning professionalism needs to take hold within us. If we could just spread that word. Honorable, why? Because you are at the very foundation of the economic valuation of this country. It was founded on real estate, right? Why did our founding fathers move here? Why did they cross those treacherous oceans to get to this strange land?
Field of Dreams.
They wanted to own property because they didn't where they came from, right? Who owned it? The kings and the lords. The king and the lords, they owned it. So they came because they wanted to avoid religious persecution. That was number one, because the king was changing from Catholicism to Protestantism, right? And they were being punished and killed if they didn't switch. And they knew nothing else. And the other reason was because they wanted to own the land that they worked so hard every day. Who did they work for? The lords and the king. They could never own anything. They couldn't even own their cattle. They couldn't own the swine. They couldn't own the cattle. They couldn't own sheep. They could own none of that. So they came here so that they could do exactly that. Real property, personal property. That's what they wanted. That's what you and I deal with every day. Huge, huge. It grew this nation's economy. Bring honor to the work. What we do is honorable. They wanted to unite as professionals, operate morally and ethically, elevate the level of professionalism, and bring dignity to the profession. 13 states and 16 cities were represented. Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Maryland, Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Nebraska, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Missouri, California, and Washington. And if I'm talking fast, it's because I went a little bit too long on the other slides. So I've got to get through this. Code of ethics. So out of that meeting in 1908, they dispensed tasks to several of the men saying, okay, we need to define a code of ethics. How are we going to operate? How are we going to become the force of law in real estate? We can do this. So they developed our code of ethics. They wrote the preamble and they wrote the code of ethics, and they came back collectively. They had meetings over time. And after 5 years, it was created. It's only had modifications as our industry has developed and grown and expanded. But the preamble only changed by adding the term realtor, which wasn't adopted until the 1940s. That's when the preamble got changed, was in the 1940s. So the Code of Ethics established professional standards for real estate conduct. How do we conduct our business as professionals? First ethical code for business after medicine, engineering, and law. And it is enforced by your local association, not the regulatory bodies. The code has 4 major sections. There is a preamble, which I love. It's based on the Golden Rule and the Declaration of Independence. Our articles are divided into duties to clients and customers, duties to the public, and duties to our peer group, duties to realtors. So this was the first code of ethics for a business of this type, of any business actually, and it included duties to the public, and it included duties to the peer group. Healthy competition is what that should communicate to you. That was the full intent. This is an honorable work that got done here. Then we have the articles are supported by standards of practice, which further describe the intent of each of the articles. So the Code of Ethics became the basis for later adopted licensing laws. So it's almost like a cut and paste in many of the states that you go to, and particularly Arizona. If you violate something in the Code of Ethics, you're probably going to be violating a state law. In most cases, that's true. They're synonymous. So we didn't have real estate licensing law, or we didn't have real estate laws at all in Arizona until the 1920s. We didn't become a state until 1912. Licensing laws came in the early 1920s. The Department of Real Estate here was opened in the 1940s, and we didn't even license until the late 1960s. That's when we had licensing law in Arizona. Did you know that? You were around then. You could have operated without a license, and many did. Many did. So our code of ethics became the basis for licensing laws really pretty much across the nation. And I will tell you that to use the term realtor, you have to belong to the National Association of Realtors, right? That's a trademark. It's an association, not a regulatory body. It's an association. It's a professional organization that is supposed to provide information and guide, and they do a good job with that. But if you are not a member of the National Association of Realtors and you get yourself into trouble, I guarantee you the judge is going to hold you to this standard. That is what the courts are using now to judge what is acceptable behavior of a real estate professional. Doesn't matter if you're a member or not, they're going to hold you to that standard. Pretty strong stuff. It also created the development of business ethics that were just vastly moving across the nation. Suddenly, industries were starting to develop their codes, their operating codes. Hey, this is a good idea. Company policies started getting developed in these large organizations. Individual moral values were being developed and determined for employment. Do you have to be a person of good moral character to get a license?
Yes.
Yes, you do. It is a state law. So how many of you take the commissioner's bulletin every quarter? You should have it emailed to you.
It comes. It
Shows
shows
you. What's the first place? Where do you go first? Me too. Where do you go?
I always,
Last few pages.
yeah, who got in trouble?
Who got in trouble?
Yes, who got their
I'm
hands
looking for
slapped.
people I know on that list, right?
I'm always looking for a couple of people.
Yeah, I have a few too. Maybe about five.
Yeah.
Maybe about five. But here's the point about that bulletin. If you look at it now, something she's added. It's always been reporting people who have violated that are currently licensed. Now on the list is people who have applied that have been denied. And most of the denials, have you noticed that? Most of the denials are because they are not people of good moral.
They lied on their
values.
application.
They've lied on their application. They've been convicted of some kind of felonies or misdemeanor that would not make them a good person for the work that we do in representing the best interests of someone else. More denials today than normal. Unbelievable, she says. Unbelievable. The other thing is business ethics and legal standards being developed, making certain that your business is operating within the law, because the law will always prevail, always prevail. The common characteristic of being a realtor is that regardless of your specialty in business, realtors are bound by the code of ethics. It's our promise. It's what we say we are going to uphold. This is how we're going to live our life every day. We're going to conduct our business in this way. We have affiliate members, right? Who are our affiliates?
Title company, mortgage.
Title companies, mortgage companies,
Lenders.
home inspectors. One of the largest groups of affiliates is appraisers. Appraisers will join our association. Why?
Work hand.
It's the only way they can access our data out of the multiple listing system, which is more accurate. That data is more accurate than any other listing and sales information available. So they rely on it heavily.
Then why doesn't
for their
the consumer do that?
valuations.
Trust us versus Zillow or Realtor.com?
I do not know.
Oh,
I have the same thing. I have to re-educate all the time on those estimates. I
golly.
can't get it. I can't go down that road because I will disparage. I will. They're not very high on my list.
Nope.
At least on the like list.
Right.
They're not. So affiliate members are required to abide by our code of ethics by being a member. They're not realtors. Therefore, they're not subject to any discipline or penalty. But if they are not people of good character and they wind up getting in trouble, they could lose their membership and access to our data, and they would not be included in our membership. Dispute resolution. This was something they developed early on. Remember, we had no laws. So these guys were very, very foresightful. They said, let's give them a place to bring their complaints, realtor to realtor, and our customers and our clients, the public. Let them come and air their grievances to us. We will manage arbitration, mediation. We'll see if we can't resolve these issues. One of the biggest reasons was because there were no laws and they had no place to go. So they became the legal body, the enforcement body, way back when. And if you remember, when you did your first orientation, you should have been told that we are a self-policing profession. We police each other. That's our job. It's a responsibility that we take on. How many of you have ever filed a complaint against another agent? Okay, well, I've got a few hands. I'm going to encourage you to be doing that more. It's the only way we're going to turn around what we have now. It's going to take a little time. That always takes time out of your busy, busy schedules. But the end result is that the industry improves. It does improve. If you have a legitimate complaint, don't look at it as punitive. It's to correct the situation. Educate, help educate somebody. Yes.
How is Zillow working? I mean, are they a broker here? And
They are now.
Going to work there?
They're licensed now. They're licensed. They've got listings out there. Yep. Hate to say it. Our industry's changing.
It is.
We got to develop new ways of working with them. It's really tough for somebody like me that's done it so traditionally for so long. I truly am an old dog. That is hard to teach new tricks. But because I teach, I have to tell people, listen, there could be opportunities out there. I remember the very first time I lost a buyer to a new home sales builder. You know, I felt totally ripped off. And I've had the best brokers, just absolutely the best mentors. And I remember what my broker said to me. What could you have done to prevent that? What needs to be in your future strategy to minimize that loss? Can you prevent it completely? Probably not. But can you minimize it? Yes.
You'll never make that mistake again.
I never made it again. That's why I visit these new home builders. I don't do it just when I think I might have a buyer. I do it all the time. They get a small block of my time every week. I go to a couple of my builders. I make sure the salespeople are still there, the same. I meet them. I bring them goodies. I gather their latest packages. I tour their specs, because if I'm going to sell something, I want it to be a spec, not something that's going to take 9 months to build. I want to get paid. So I'm always looking at the specs, and I know a lot about the builder, so I can prepare my client before I take them in. And I always ask the question. So if they happen to walk in, oh, well, you know what? Just fill out the registration card.
They're so friendly.
Sometimes
they're
they
realtor
will
friendly.
do that for
They're
you.
realtor friendly. I mean,
Right
you can do it
now, they
online.
are super realtor friendly. Yes.
So Zillow is a broker in Arizona now?
Yeah.
So
They're licensed here. I don't know if they have a brokerage firm, but they are licensed.
but the way to keep us all at least at the same starting point is to keep an eye to make sure that they are adhering to all of the same policies and
Yes.
procedures and guidelines and laws.
Yes.
And everything.
Yes. And we should be doing that for everybody. It doesn't matter who. So I will tell you quickly, and this will affect Zillow because they do the same kind of thing. I call them latchkey houses because I had a latchkey kid way back when. The latchkey houses, you have the code, right? And your buyers can enter whenever. So I was showing over the weekend right after Thanksgiving, unexpectedly, this couple came into town I was telling you about. And they had a number of houses that they wanted to take a look at. First on their list that met almost all their criteria was an open door property. Second on their list was a Zillow listing. In both those instances, first instance, they made the offer, it was countered. They had to waive the SPDS. They countered back at full price, which the buyer was not willing to do because the house still needed some work and it wasn't very clean. A lot of the landscaping had died, so they knew that they were going to have some work to do on this property. So, but their biggest concern was the fact that Open Door said no SPDS, no disclosure on the property. Then, shortly after that, we get another document before they even had time to respond that said that they had to waive any future action against Open Door for any malfunction within that property. So they walked, said, no, we're not going to do it. Interesting thing is Open Door came back accepting their offer. But
they've done that to me. It was too late. They moved on.
It was too late. They moved on. They moved on to the Zillow property, which was even worse as far as disclosures and all of the releases that you have to sign in a packet like this. It would not tell them anything about the property, what repairs they had made or anything like that. It never showed up. They got skittish. They said, we're not going to buy it. Don't show us any more Open Door or Zillow listings. We don't trust these guys. We're not going to work with them. So particularly, I'm going to tell you, the millennial buyer, they're investigating this stuff very carefully because they saw their parents go through very, very hard times in the housing industry. And a lot of bad things happen. So they're very, very cautious about those things now. Yes.
I sold a property to one of these major investment groups. And I noticed that not only the property that I sold, but several of the others that they purchased are keeping it vacant. And I have no idea. I thought at first it was probably to flip or to lease out or something, but they literally are keeping the houses vacant right now.
That could be your Chinese investor groups because they do represent, you know, we call them REITs, investment trusts. Yeah, there's probably about 3 of those that represent the Chinese investor. So you could have already experienced some of them.
7 or 8 months.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm hearing the same thing. Yeah, you probably have more. Okay, so back to our material here. So arbitration, mediation arbitration to handle disputes between and among realtors. It was also extended to clients and customers. The next one, respect for other brokers' exclusive relationships with clients. What does that mean?
Crossing the line, crossing the sign.
When you have a contract, right? You have a listing, that's a client relationship. This is law too. I mean, it's not just law in Arizona, it's law everywhere. You have a written agreement with somebody, they are your client. They are protected. Cannot interfere with that relationship, and particularly here. But how else, without this, how else were you going to get those street peddlers to come to the table and say, okay, we can work together? If you're not going to go around my back and try to steal my clients, try to steal my take advantage of my relationships, then I can agree. If this becomes something enforceable, then I can agree. And that's exactly what they had to do to get these people to come together, to work together, because cooperation between and among realtors is good for everybody.
Everyone.
Would you agree with that?
Oh, yes.
We create the win-win. Can you have healthy competition?
Oh,
Yes.
Yes, I love having a professional on the other end of a
yes.
transaction that will fight for their client, who will say, listen, this is my job. This is what I do. Okay, I'm going to fight for my client, right? I can respect somebody like that. I do not respect that professional who's really not professional calling me at midnight, calling me everything but a white person. Really.
Oh my God.
And I've had that. I'm telling you, I've got about 5 realtors in this valley I will not work
They
with.
have bad reputations.
I will not work with again. And I'm not going to answer their phone calls. And I
Don't show their listings.
I don't show their listings, and I pray I don't get an offer. I just pray I don't get anything from them. But this was at the very inception of our code of ethics. What you need to know that's coming down the pike right now is that effective January 1 of the coming new year, state and local associations can publish names of code of ethics violators. These will go on the association's websites, will be available to members only. Why are they doing this? Why are they doing this?
Protect our industry.
Agents beware.
Agents beware. They're shaming us. This is a shame thing, right? Don't violate the code of ethics. Don't, because your name is going to show up on there and your picture.
Good.
Your company name isn't going to show up. They're not going to publish the company name, but your name and your photograph and the violation and what the distribution was.
We're going to have to hold our
For the
license
complaint.
number in front of us.
And a Starbucks.
That's a good
cup.
idea. I should ask about that. I don't know if AAR or any of the local associations are going to do this, but this should communicate to you one important message. We have a problem. We're getting into serious trouble. Lawsuits are costing us money. We've got to stop now. Simple things could change all of that from happening in the future. So there's no new changes to Article 10. However, there is some case study that has occurred that is impacting, and we are still having major issues with the way we advertise. But this has to do with federal fair housing. So Article 10 is all about the protected classes, in addition to our federal fair housing. And then at the state level, our fair housing laws, protected classes, goes right to the Attorney General's office. I don't know if you know that. but it does not go to the Department of Real Estate. It goes to the Attorney General, and they have a boatload of attorneys. And we have, Arizona has lost a lot of cases on fair housing violations. The important thing here is that back in 2014, we added sexual orientation or gender identity. Nothing else has changed since the Civil Rights Act of 1964. But this has been included in your code of ethics. The other area where you're going to see this is that we have public employment, which is any government employment or government related suppliers are required to include this in their policies. Phoenix has a city ordinance, right? You remember the 2012 bathroom bill? Big deal about the transgenders using the same bathroom as other sex children? Yes, big problem. Well, the bathroom bills have spread across the country now. We were the first to launch it. Now several states are dealing with it. So sexual orientation and gender identity is protected also in 6 cities in Arizona: Scottsdale, Tempe, Flagstaff, Tucson, Gilbert, Chandler. Those are your 6 cities that have ordinances that say you cannot discriminate for equal professional services. Your code of ethics says you cannot. But there is a new case law out that is supporting the federal fair housing law now. We're going to hear more about it. You can write it down. It's Smith versus Avanti, Avanti, or the reverse. I can't remember. Maybe I have it in my notes. So this was a situation where there was a lesbian couple. One member of that couple was a transgender, and they had a small child, and they were looking to rent property. This was out of Colorado. And they found a property that they liked that was available. They sent, and it was an owner, specifically an owner, and owners, and people say, well, owners have exemptions. Not if you own more than 4 properties. There is no exemption, and there is no exemption for race, no matter how many you own. So the deal here was they emailed the owner of the property. They wanted to take a look at the property. They meet her there the next day. They tell her their situation. They love the property, but they had 2 more houses to look at, or 3, or whatever it was. And they would get back to her that afternoon. So they go on their way. They email her later, reiterating everything that they had talked about earlier. We're a lesbian couple. I am a transgender. We have this age child. We love this school district. These are the things that we enjoy doing. We're a very basic couple, quiet living, no wild parties, blah, blah, blah. Told the whole story about themselves. And we would like to rent your property. Please let us know how we can make the deposit and when we can occupy. Response: clearly you will not fit into the neighborhood. My neighbors would hate me forever. Your lifestyle is simply not acceptable. Yes, I've lived here all my life. I've known these people all my life, well over 60 years, this woman says. And guess what? She lost in court. Of course. She lost in court based on this: sex. So for years, sex has been in the law. They wanted to change it to gender, because that was the intent of the word sex, was it should be gender. Don't discriminate based on gender. Well, now this includes this and this. So you're going to be hearing more about that in your fair housing process coming up. Professional service. And here's the thing. You're a licensee 24/7. Once you get a license in Arizona, that's what you are. You are a licensee 24/7. You get no vacation from that job. It is your responsibility. That's a fact. And your job is to make available or find available housing for your clients, right? It doesn't matter who they are or what they are. That is our job. That's what we say we're going to do. I could tell you a lot of stories how I've been confronted with that very early on in my career and continuing down the road. You have to get rid of your judgment and your opinion and do your job. Realtors shall not be parties to any plan or agreement to discriminate. Okay. Age is not a protected class. Please write that down. I teach a lot of fair housing, and I have agents say to me, well, age is a protected class. No, it is not. The only reason I have this photo here is because of this. This is a protected class. And as we age, we typically become handicapped or experience some disabilities, which is a protected class. You don't have to be elderly. You don't have to be elderly. But I want to point out here where we're having challenges with that one. Over 55% of our complaints in 2017 across this nation were for handicap or disability violations. So what's moving into your neighborhood?
An older generation.
What about group homes?
Oh.
You seeing group homes? They are a protected class. The American with Disabilities Act says group homes that take care and provide services for this protected class are protected. They are not subject to zoning laws. They are not subject to HOAs. They are subject to a few state and local ordinances. State law says no more than 10 people in one of those homes. State law says you must get a license. The house must be inspected because it has to be retrofitted to accommodate those people having those disabilities, those handicaps. There are 3 organizations in this state that buy these houses with grant money. If you ever wanted to get into the business, just go online. There's tons of grant money available for this. And Arizona, being a destination state with all these boomers retiring and moving here, it's becoming very, very popular. So we have a situation right now in Anthem where there's 4 of these within a 2-block radius.
Ooh.
And the residents, some of them realtors, are up in arms about it. And I have cautioned them repeatedly, they have to back off. One of them is a halfway house. Do you know what a halfway house is?
Yes.
Yeah, it's to process alcoholics, recovering alcoholics or drug addicts back into the public. Guess what? That is a protected class.
Ooh.
They are protected. They are protected until they fall off the wagon. Then they are no longer protected. But that house is protected under the ADA. Yes.
As long as the owner of the house is abiding by those state guidelines or by
Yes.
the business operating.
No, state guidelines and the local community has to issue a license as well. So Avondale lost a lawsuit 2 years ago to one of these guys that buys these up around the valley, around the state actually. Cost them $1.7 million because they would not issue a license for this person.
It cost Avondale 1.7?
Avondale lost their court case. Sedona lost a court case that was almost $1 million. And they were forced to buy the property because the community went on strike for 18 months. I mean, they picketed the state. I don't know if you saw all this. But the house was retrofitted. The guy bought it. It was retrofitted to accommodate, I think they were going to have 7 people in that one. They have to have a doctor on call 24/7. They have to have a registered nurse, probably covering at least 2 shifts, someone that can dispense medications. Their garages are typically used to store medications, supplies, and things that those folks need. So they usually park in the driveway or on the street. That's a big complaint.
Right.
If you're in an HOA that says you cannot do that, it does not matter. It does not matter. They don't have to comply.
A lot of the communities, our jurisdictions just bypass the whole permit public part of it because it is, there's no point in it because if they want to try to avoid some of the complaints, because they found that by opening it up for the typical public permit status, it creates a reaction that they have no ability to do anything about.
Yeah,
And
that's
so-
what happened in Sedona. I mean, it was a war. It was a war up there. The people did not want the group home in the neighborhood. Anthem, the 4 are behind a gated community. And I will tell you, there's probably going to wind up being a lawsuit over those. So be careful with group homes. Chris Combs, who used to be the AAR legal counsel, Arizona Association of Realtors, has some good information on his website about this. So read it. If you're listing a property next door, what you can and cannot say, you want to make sure that you're doing the right things. Realtors in their real estate employment practices shall not discriminate against any person or persons on the basis of, this is employment practices. So brokers hire people, real estate agents hire people. You cannot discriminate, not only because it's a code of ethics, but because it is a federal law now. You can't do that. Okay, I bring this one up for a very specific reason. Some of you might have heard about this. It happened on the west side, very large broker on the west side, had a younger agent that was newer licensed agent, was taking one of the few first listings that she had in her early career. She listed this single family home, and in the semi-public remarks in all caps were the words, no Muslims allowed.
What?
Yes. Yes.
You still have a license?
Provisional. She's on a provisional right now. So she submitted all of her paperwork through the company's portal, right? Within 3 days, there was a code of ethics violation filed against the broker. There was an ADRE complaint that went to the AG's office and opened a lawsuit. So they were found in violation of the code of ethics, obviously, and at the AG's office again. Here was the story of the younger agent, newer agent. She says, I knew that it was discrimination. I told my seller it was discrimination. That we could not do that. And my seller insisted, absolutely insisted. So I put it in the comments. And she said, obviously now I wished I had not done that. Yes. Was she complicit?
Yes.
By placing it? Absolutely. Yes,
You
she
should
was.
refer that listing to one of those agents if you don't like.
Yes. That's an idea. I'm going to use that in the future.
Send it to Zillow.
Call Beth
I'll
Ryder.
do that in the future.
And a 30% referral fee.
As long as I don't have to pay any of the fine. So here's what happened to the agent. Is on a provisional license for 2 years. That means all of her phone calls, emails, text messages, office activities are going to be audited by someone at the department's level. They will call these people that she talks to make certain that she's in complete compliance. And the worst punishment of all was she had to do 24 hours of continuing education in fair housing, in addition to her regular renewal hours.
What
That's
happened to the
hard.
seller?
That's hard. So the Remax broker was charged a $50,000 fine by the AG's office.
Dave Martinez.
And he never, no.
No, he's in.
And he
Gotcha.
never saw that submission of documents. The broker never saw it. And in fact, the managing broker who was supposed to sign off on documents didn't even look at it for the first 7 days. That may be happening in some of your larger firms. So this is a huge warning to brokers. You need to be looking at the paperwork of your new people because you're not training them anymore. That was a $50,000 mistake. Yeah, they could have saved that one. And that's the first offense. That's the first offense. And it was race and religion. The second offense is how much? 100,000.
I mean, as a new agent, I mean, you just got through orientation and
Yes.
the classes. I mean,
Yes.
it's like, I can't do that.
Yes. Yes, I know. I've been there with an almost identical situation with Yavapai Indians. Yeah, my seller said, you will not show or sell this house to a Yavapai Indian. Sweet little old lady, very first listing. And I had to walk away from it for that reason.
How many times, though, do we as agents pick up insinuations from our clients, potential listers or buyers, that I don't want to buy a house? And they might not outright say it, but they're insinuating it, and you're getting the message.
Yes.
And,
It's happening all over. And that a lot of the situation with the coming soon is exclusives right now are creating some real challenges. Some of our Facebook groups that are being formed where your listings aren't going into MLS, your listings are shared with a special group of real estate. There's one large group in LA that's under investigation by the federal government right now because they do not put their stuff in the multiple listing system and they only share it with a few realtors because they want a particular type of buyer. What is that? What is the message that gets sent?
Steering.
Discrimination.
You're excluded. Yes. Protected classes. Protected classes. Okay. 10-3 shall not print, display, or circulate any statement or advertisement with respect to selling, renting that indicates any preference, limitations, or discrimination. Remember the listing. Even in the semi-public remarks. Article 12, another big one. We're still having trouble with advertising. Realtors shall be honest and truthful in their real estate communications, present a true picture in advertising, marketing, and other representations, shall ensure that their status as real estate professionals is readily apparent in their advertising market and other representations, and that the recipient of all communications have been notified that those communications are from a real estate professional. So this covers a wide body of things. So we are now seeing a lot of doctoring of photographs. Have you heard about the house that has the big power lines behind it, that the power lines were erased from the video? Yes, that is illegal. You're going to get in trouble for that. The expansion of room sizes on the photographs makes it look larger. The house, the rooms look larger than they are. That you're going to get in trouble for that. Don't be doing that kind of stuff. We've had some weird stuff happen with the way we are advertising. And the commissioner said it again at the presentation I did last night for the Department of Real Estate. So we did an IDW last night to educators, and she's stressing this is one of the areas. Your broker, the brokerage firm, not the designated broker, the brokerage firm must be clearly and prominently displayed on everything that you are associated with as a licensee. Web page, every page of your web page. Facebook, if you can't get the broker's name on there, then it has to be a one-click link. Same with LinkedIn. You've got to have the brokerage firm on there. Why? Because all these people are going to the AG's office filing complaints against real estate licensees. And now the Attorney General is coming down on the commissioner saying, you've been slapping hands for 5 or 6 years and nothing's working. We're going to take action. You are going to see fines. Fines are coming. On signs, you must have your broker clearly and prominently displayed. Doesn't matter how large your name is or the team's name is or the group's name is, but the broker has to be clear and prominent. You cannot have a consumer believing that you are the company, which is what is happening, because you're not. The broker is the company.
Who do you report those to?
Department of Real Estate. That is a violation of law, not just your code of ethics.
We just call?
Yeah, they actually just ask them what their complaint process is. They'll ask what kind of complaint. They'll lead you right through. They'll lead you right through. And it's happening. We're getting tons of complaints from consumers. So, we have a tendency not to complain about each other, but that is considered kind of an unfair business practice, right? We're supposed to create a level playing field for everybody so that we don't break the rules. Because what happens when one goes outside, goes off the reservation, as the commissioner says? Then everybody thinks, okay, my only recourse is to do the same thing. 2 wrongs never make a right. 2 wrongs never make a right. File your complaints. File with your association. File with the Department of Real Estate, because that is a law. That is a law that this be done. Okay, here I have the Craigslist and Zillow. If you have listings, you need to be checking these websites. Make certain that your information is accurate. If you want them advertised there, fine. If you don't, you need to get your broker to call, because they're not allowed. If they don't give recognition, this is in our code of ethics. So Zillow is supposed to be a member of our National Association of Realtors in order to use our MLS system. So if they are posting your listing information without acknowledgement of your brokerage firm, courtesy of or listed by some kind of an acknowledgement, they're breaking the law, and you need to be checking for accuracy of data, because a lot of them are wrong. A lot of them are the wrong price. A lot of them are the wrong size. Just like you said, they advertise things that do not exist. So make certain you're not letting them get away with that. Craigslist, same thing. Here they're fishing for buyers as well. They want to sell your listing. So they're going to promote your listing. Sometimes they add square footage. Sometimes they write little things in there that aren't really true about the house. And they're not acknowledging that it's your listing. So people are assuming that they are contacting the listing agent, who should know everything about the property. Not the case. So make sure you're checking these. Standard practice 12-10, obligation to present a true picture in your advertising. This is what you are prohibited from doing. Engaging in deceptive or unauthorized framing of real estate brokerage websites. So we still have a lot of websites that are out of compliance. We still have people stealing websites, driving traffic from yours to theirs. It's still happening. So make sure you're checking on your website. And I don't know how you do that. I pay somebody to take care of that for me. I don't know how that works. Manipulating listing and other content in any way that produces a deceptive or misleading result. Craigslist, Zillow, they are currently doing that. Deceptively using meta tags, keywords, and other devices or methods to direct or drive or divert internet traffic. Remember Russ Lyon, local state company, the LYON, all their traffic was diverted to the guy that developed Russ LION, Russ Lyon, and he lost his case. I think he's still in jail. Presenting content developed by others without either attribution or without permission, listed by and your brokerage firm's name. But this also goes to copyright. Don't be stealing other people's information and making it look like it's your own. Otherwise misleading consumers, including use of misleading images. Your code of ethics was amended on January of 18 to make this a little bit tougher. Why? Because it continues to be violated. Yes, sir.
If Zillow's a member of NAR and our association, why isn't something done about them having listings on the internet that closed escrow 2 or 3 months ago?
I don't know if that's a violation to have that on there. But
It is with our MLS. It's a $500 fine.
Then report it to MLS. So here's the thing about Zillow is they were only recently licensed in Arizona. Most people didn't even know that they were selling houses here. That literally they were offering houses for sale. And they are. They have inventory out there. 500 houses on the market out there. Yes. Your people are looking at them. I guarantee you. So don't hesitate to file your complaints on these people and let them receive their fines. Let them pay their comeuppance for this. I'm certainly going to, not because I don't want to compete with them, but because I want to level the playing field. You want to play in my playground, these are the rules. Let's all follow the rules. And I would go to the Department of Real Estate just as probably quicker than I would to ethics, because I want something done immediately. I want fines processed quickly. And I'm willing to take the time to do that.
Yeah.
So we all have to be guardians of our industry and our profession. Preamble, under all is the land. This is the code's aspirational foundation. It's based on the golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And I love this. I love it because it really came right out of our Declaration of Independence. And it talks about land ownership and land distribution. So it's powerful. Under all is the land. Upon its wise utilization and widely allocated ownership depend the survival and growth of free institutions. That right there ties to your declaration. And growth and of our civilization. Realtors should recognize that the interests of the nation and its citizens require the highest and best use of the land and the widest distribution of land ownership. What does that mean? What does that mean?
Everyone should have the opportunity to.
Yes, everyone has the right to own land. Everyone has the right to use the land. It's a treasure that we have in this country. So well written. This sets your foundation for something very honorable. And in fact, this should tell you at the very foundation of the economy in this country. When it goes bad, people suffer. People suffer. So the vision for the preamble was realizing that cooperation with other real estate professionals promotes the best interests of those who utilize their services. Working together. And I can tell you, when I joined the National Association of Realtors in 1984, and I started working with real estate professionals, I had excellent training. I had excellent broker mentors. I absolutely loved this industry, and I had great corporate jobs. I really did. But I love real estate. I would never go back to that, even though I only had to work 40 hours a week most of the time. Because I don't do that now. How many of you get to work 40 hours a week?
I'd love to.
Yeah, none of us do. Our clients call, right? Our clients need us. Several concepts relating to the profession's integrity. It's competency, fairness, and high integrity. So what's competency? How are you competent?
And your knowledge,
Experience, invaluable, right? Invaluable. You have access to information that your neighbors don't have unless they're a licensee. Real estate agents know more about what's going on in their community than anybody else. In many cases, even more than their own legislators, honestly. Smart bunch of people we are. Fairness to who?
All.
Everybody. Fairness to all. And what about high integrity? What's the price of your license worth?
Life.
Is it worth that one transaction? Nope. It's not. It is not. To keep your integrity high. Refrain from taking unfair advantage of your competitors. That's what we're talking about. That's why Zillow is the big buzz. That's why some of the iBuyers, people are very angry about the iBuyers. I still think we are relevant. I don't think that it's going, I mean, eventually it might. I talk to certain people in the education field, and they are insisting that in 5 years we won't exist. I don't believe that.
No, neither.
I don't believe it.
They've been saying that for a while.
They've been saying it for a while. I don't believe it. Keep in mind that no inducement of profit or instruction from clients can justify departure from the code's duties. That means no illegal inducements. Do not be induced or enticed to do something against the code or something that would be illegal that might put you at risk. Structure of the code, we have 17 articles, statements of ethical principles. Only the articles of the code may be violated. And if you file a complaint, you have to cite the article specifically. It's supported by standards of practice that support, interpret, and amplify each article. Again, may not be charged. The standard of practice cannot be charged, but it could be cited in support of your complaint. Official case interpretations, we're going to go through at least one or two of those today. These are fact situations. You can find these on the National Association of Realtors website. I encourage you all to go there, pull down those surveys. They do great surveys that will predict the future of your business. So you need to be downloading them. They're free to you. And we're going to talk about some of the violations of the code. I've got a couple that are specific to Arizona. Again, they can be cited, but not charged. So the code and the law has to be reasonably construed. We cannot violate the law. It will impose duties above and in addition to those imposed by law, and will restate certain fundamental legal principles like fair housing. So in your packet is Pathways to Professionalism. This was a document that came out in 1984 I was telling you about. It was to improve and increase etiquette, service, and courtesy by the real estate professional. They now have a new professionalism program that you can do online. I encourage you all to check it out. It's on the NAR website. This one was regarding respect to the public, respect to property, and respect for peers. I'm not going to read it. I never have time to go through it in this class. But what do you think is the number one complaint, realtor to realtor, in working in this industry? What would you complain about your fellow realtors? Number one complaint. Communication, hands down. Every class I teach, they don't answer their phone. They don't return phone calls. They will not respond to a text message. They will not respond to an email. The listing said there's a lockbox on the house. I get to the house, I crawl under every bush, look under every tree, hanging in every tree possible. No lockbox. Can't reach them. Agent doesn't answer the phone, doesn't respond to text messages. I've lost clients over this. Mm-hmm. So, and I'm just going to say it right now. I don't care who you are. If you've got in your listing, that I can't submit an offer to you after 5 p.m. on a Friday until 9 a.m. on Monday, then I'm going to sell something else. My client is there now, and buyers today are more demanding than they've ever been. Mm-hmm. I've had more of them call me from Sky Harbor and tell me, I've got 5 hours to spend with you, and I want to see 5 houses. Pick me up at Sky Harbor, have me back by this time. And I've got to schedule 5 houses in about 30 minutes. And they're gone. And many times they've made a decision out of those 5. You're probably going to get the same kind of thing. Buyers are not as patient as they used to be and not as flexible. The seller either wants to sell their house or they don't. So do me a favor, read these sections, See if there's one thing on there you personally can improve that will have a positive impact on the industry itself. Because we cannot change others, right? You can't change someone else. I know we try, but we can't. The only person we can change is who? Ourselves. So do something good for yourself and for the industry. So enforcement of the code, every association is responsible for enforcing the code. This includes providing mediation and conducting ethics and arbitration hearings. Only realtors and realtor associates are subject to the code. Here's the process. You will file with the Professional Standards Committee. They will look at it. If there is a potential violation, they will either refer it to a grievance committee or immediately schedule an ethics hearing. So realtor to realtor will always be an ethics hearing. Will probably be a mediation with an ombudsman. These are mediators who actually are trained in developing good conversations, allowing those folks to create the result, the end result. What's going to resolve this? Sometimes they will fine the violating party. One case I had, he was fined. He was fined $5,000, and my seller received a little over $4,000 of that as a result of an ethics hearing, and he had to do continuing ed. And he didn't like me very much for a long time. But he did call me about 18 months later, and he said, okay, I get it. I've got the same situation. What would you advise I do with the situation I'm dealing with now? So he was in the reverse role as a realtor. I wouldn't say we're friends, but we communicate. We know how to work together now. And that's all I need. I don't need you to be my buddy. I just want to work with you. I will work hard to work with you. Arbitration is always money. Procuring costs, client or customer claims for money. So clients and customers are filing complaints with the Department of Real Estate, as well as with the associations for money claims. And those are going to arbitration, and we are a little backed up. Mediation is an informal process. It's very low in cost, little delay, has a maximum range of solutions. The parties will control the outcome. Once they have an agreement, a written document will be prepared. They will sign it and date it. Kind of an uncertain closure because it is not enforceable other than through the association. So if one party does not adhere to the agreement, then it would go further, perhaps into arbitration. Sometimes can maintain and improve relationships. Not always, but sometimes. But what did I say? People in the grace period included. We've got like 87,000 realtors in here, so you make one mad. You will have contributed something good to them. They could learn from this. I'm not talking punitive. I'm talking education. Arbitration is moderate cost, about $500 for a panel. Arizona uses a panel of your members. I have served on those panels. It's a 5-person panel. Win, lose, or split, we are kind of backed up on those right now. The arbitrator controls the outcome. They investigate. They look for lots of evidence. They interview. They read everything that you submit. There is definite closure. Once the panel has voted and made the decision, it is as enforceable as a court ruling, a judgment given you out of a court. May harm relationships. If money is involved, you will have to repay it if you're found guilty. All of the arbitration process is included under Article 17. There's a manual on the NAR website that will walk you through exactly how you file. You can also read the part where the panels, the hearing panels, how they are guided in resolving the issues. Probably the most difficult one is procuring cause cases, because there are really no predeterminers to procuring cause. They consider the entire course of events from start to finish. And it involves a lot of information and a lot of answering questions. So you will be interrogated, literally. You can have legal representation. All you need to do, you can bring your attorney, just make certain that the panel is aware that you're bringing an attorney. So if your opposition wants an attorney, they have an opportunity to have that provided. What you need to know is that writing the offer, making the first showing, or having an agency relationship in and of themselves does not necessarily determine procuring cause or entitlement. Same with the threshold rule. So what do these panels look for? They look for a continuation of the relationship between the agent and their client, right? Was that relationship still good? The other is, did the agent, the original agent, have anything to do with the buyer ultimately making the decision to purchase that property. Case in point, client leaving town on a Sunday. Agent had just sent them an email. This property just came on the market. It meets 5 to 7 of your top 10 list. It's going to be open at 10 o'clock today. I'd love to meet you there. There's going to be an open house. She told them about the open house, sent them a copy of the listing. She gets a response. The buyer says, no, we're on our way out. We're going to be back next Friday. Can we take a look at it then? Her response, it may not be available. Really, I think you need to take the time to see this property. So what do? They go to the open house, and it's being sat open by not the listing agent, but someone in that agent's office, right? Yes, they decide to buy the house. She was right. Our agent said this fit 7 out of 10. So they called their agent, made the offer, had her write it all up. By the time they got to their home, they signed it, e-sign. Contract was submitted, accepted, closed escrow. Procuring cause was filed by whom?
The open house agent?
The open house agent.
What?
Yes. I am procuring cause. Did that agent win?
Nope.
No. In that instance, she did not. Why?
She didn't have original contacts.
Because they were there based on the information provided by their original agent. Had nothing to do with the fact that that agent was sitting at that house in that moment. They should have met their agent there. That would have made it better. But their agent won that case because she was the reason they went to that house in the first place. She was the reason. So lots of different things can happen with these cases. That's my point. So Black Law Dictionary still quotes the Arkansas Supreme Court ruling from 1969 that says it is the squirrel that shakes the branch and not the squirrel that gathers the nut that is deserving of the fee. What this means, their agent shook the branch. Go see this property, right? That's where that ruling came from. Okay, Article 1, protect and promote your client's interests. This obligation to your client is primary. Treat all parties honestly. Standard of practice 1-2 defines terms like client, customer, agent, and broker, and what that should mean to you. So I want to go through 2 of these. This one, yes, this is a Flagstaff case, and then the next one is one here in Maricopa County. I'm not going to name names, but I need to go through these 2 with you because they're really important. So seller Larry contacted Realtor Brad to list a vacant lot. Larry said he had heard that similar lots in the vicinity had sold for about $50,000, and he thought he should be able to get a similar price. Brad stressed that some minor disadvantage in the location and the slope and the grade of the lot. He said that the market for vacant lots was sluggish. He suggested listing the lot at $32,500, and seller Larry agreed. Within 2 weeks, Brad brings seller Larry an offer at the list price of $32,500. Larry raised some questions about the offer, pointing out that it came in just 2 weeks and after Brad had insisted that the market for lots was sluggish. He suggested to Brad that this might be an indication that the lot was worth closer to his suggested price of $50,000. Brad strongly urged Larry to accept the offer, stating that because of the sluggish market, another offer might not develop for months, and that the offer in hand simply vindicated Brad's own judgment as to accurate pricing of the lot. Larry finally agreed, and the sale was made to buyer Craig. 2 months later, Larry discovered the lot was no longer owned by Craig, but it had been purchased by David at $1,000. Larry investigated and found that Craig was a brother-in-law of listing agent Brad, and that he had acted on behalf of Craig in buying the property for $32,500. Yeah. Sound like a problem already?
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Larry outlined the facts in a complaint to the Realtor Association, charging Brad with collusion and betrayal of a client's confidence and interest, failing to disclose that he was representing the buyer, who is also a relative, and their interest in this purchase.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. Yeah. At a hearing before Professional Standards Committee of the Association, Brad's defense was that in his observation of real estate transactions, there are only 2 legitimate prices of property: the price that a seller is willing to accept in order to liquidate the investment, and the price that a buyer is willing to pay to acquire a property in which he is particularly interested. His position was that he saw no harm in bringing about a transaction to his own advantage. Then you are not putting your client's best interest first immediately. He said it himself.
Right.
to
Dug
his
his
own
own
advantage,
grave.
in which the seller received a price that he was willing to accept and the buyer paid a price that he was willing to pay. So, was he in violation?
Oh, yes.
Clearly, actually, in more than one article. The hearing panel concluded that Realtor Brad had deceitfully used the guise of rendering professional service to a client and acting as a speculator, that he had been unfaithful to the most basic principles of agency and allegiance to his client's best interest, and that he had violated Article 1 and 4 of the Code of Ethics. $5,000 fine for this guy. But the seller went on to file a complaint with the Department of Real Estate and won. And he won the difference on his price. Yes, yes. And guess who had to pay it? Brad. Brad had to pay it. He was fined. Article 10. And just so you know, when you're paid out of the recovery fund, which was the case here, your license is terminated. Yeah. Article 10. Okay, this has to do with our fair housing. Choose your neighbor. This one happened right here in Maricopa County. It's a little bit long. We've got about 3 minutes, so I'll read fast. So Realtor Andy listed a property in a new subdivision. At the instruction of his client seller, Sam, Andy did not enter the property into the multiple listing system, did not place a for sale sign on the property, and did not advertise the property. Sam told Andy that he wanted the sale to be handled quietly, with the new purchasers being people who would fit into the neighborhood, people with the same socioeconomic background as the other residents of the subdivision. Think about coming soon and coming soon exclusives. Based on his conversation with seller Sam, Andy's only marketing effort was mailing a letter to the other residents of the subdivision, inviting them to play a part in the decision of who your next neighbor will be. If you know someone who you would like to live in the neighborhood, please let them know of the availability of this home or call me and I will be happy to contact them and arrange a private showing. While I'm doing this, I probably need to be cycling this so you guys can start signing. There's 2 of them, so let's start them both now. Arrange a private showing. This marketing strategy came to the attention of Realtor Bonnie, whose mother lived in the subdivision, and Bonnie filed a complaint charging Andy with a violation of Article 10 of the Code of Ethics. At the hearing, Bonnie told the hearing panel of receiving a copy of the marketing letter from her mother, who had recently moved into the subdivision. Bonnie advised the panel that she had checked the MLS for information on the property, had driven past the house looking for a sign, and had scanned other advertising venues for information on the property. Finding no mention of the property in any advertisement and no sign, she concluded that Andy's strategy was to limit access to the property to individuals pre-selected by the current residents, thus discriminating against home seekers from other areas or those with different backgrounds who would never have the opportunity to learn about the availability of this property. What do we do with coming soon? I'm not telling you not to do coming soon. What I'm telling you to do is to make certain that you're following all of your armless rules on coming soon. We call them delayed listings here. The September-October Realtor magazine has a number of articles about how this is disrupting us nationwide. Be prepared to defend that you are not involved in any effort to exclude any of the protected classes. The other complaints that they are getting regarding our coming soon is that the seller was given a pitch, a hype, that coming soon is the best way to get the word out about the market, create a buying frenzy, right? Multiple offers. But that's not what happened. I got a contract on that house within 3 days at my full price, and I was told I had to take that. But I was not exposed to the full buyer pool. So there are cases being brought in multiple states across the nation on the coming soon situation. Just defend yourself. Be prepared to defend yourself.
You can't even see the property till it comes live anyway.
Yeah, well, let me just ask you, how many of you have noticed that the delayed listings sell before they actually become active? Happens all the time. And are all coming soons in the MLS?
No.
No. If you're driving neighborhoods and you see coming soon and it's not in the MLS, that's not uncommon. There's also a company that's doing coming soon exclusives, meaning it's in their office. So even if you had a buyer, it's driving the buyers to that office. And even if you had a buyer who wrote an offer, there's no compensation agreement, right? No co-broke.
It's not in the MLS.
And it's exclusive to that office. So that's controlling the inventory that is available. I'm just telling you,
Why doesn't the commissioner do something about it?
it's being looked at right now. I can tell you, they have a number of
I
complaints.
don't understand why that truly
Yeah.
got voted in. I mean, even
Yes,
my
ma'am.
There's a
broker.
lot of, I mean, I personally have had sellers that don't want to do a co-broke.
Yes.
And I'm only getting a 2% commission on the sale, and I'm like, okay, if you really want to sell, then, we'll do a 4 and we'll see who else in my office or who wants to do it for 2%.
Educate your
I
seller.
mean, and then they're just like, oh, okay, I mean, before we write up an offer, before we write up the contract, but that's, people, they just don't want to do, like, they just don't want to.
There has to be a reason that you can defend
Yes.
that isn't in violation
Yeah.
of our laws and our
They don't
rules.
want to pay.
Can that seller, okay, but that's on them, but I'd get that in writing. And I'll tell you why, because the minute you close on that house, they come back 6 weeks from now, what proof do you have that they didn't want that? That you didn't, they will say you didn't represent their best interests. That's what's happening now.
They'll make more if they expose it to more buyers.
Right.
That's what I always tell them.
It's true. It's
But
true.
they're just like, no, we don't, I mean.
Tough people.
Yeah, it's like $6,000, $7,000.
How long have you been in the business?
For 5 years.
When you get my age,
You don't have that.
you'll recommend them to someone else.
Yeah.
You will. I don't do it anymore. I did a lot of free work for a lot of years. I don't do it anymore.
It's recommendations. What are you gonna be like? I can't help you.
That's the way you do it. You'll
Sometimes.
find out that other realtors won't show your listing.
They won't.
Yeah, and I tell them that all the time. I'm like, a lot of, they won't
Yeah.
come because they're not.
It's the reality. We're in the business to make money, not to do you favors. They have to pay you for what you know. Yeah, because you paid for it. So obviously Andy was directing all of his energy into finding a purchaser who would not disrupt the ethnic and economic character of the neighborhood. Andy defended his actions by advising the panel that he was acting on Seller Sam's instructions. Seller Sam appeared as a witness for Andy and confirmed this fact, adding that he and other residents of his block had an informal agreement that they would try to find suitable purchasers for their homes if they ever decided to sell. Yeah, suitable. Seller Sam felt that by broadening the marketing campaign to include all residents of the subdivision, he had increased the chances of finding such potential purchasers. Was there a violation of Article 10?
Yes.
Yes, Andy did. He clearly violated. He's in a lot of trouble now. This is actually also a pending fair housing case. The hearing panel found Andy in violation of Article 10 of the Code of Ethics, and in their decision, the panel advised that no instruction from a client could absolve a realtor from obligation to market properties without regard to race, color, religion, sex, handicap, familial status, national origin, sexual orientation, or gender identity as expressed in Article 10. There's no doubt in the panel's opinion that the exclusive use of choose your neighbor letters to the marketing the property was designed to circumvent the requirements of Article 10. The seller is also brought up on charges with the AG's office as well as this agent. You are done. I've got a whole ton of cases we could go through. I thank you for spending your morning with me. It was a pleasure, and I hope to see you again real soon. Thank you. Go forth and prosper, in the words of Spock.
Do you have a card?
I do.
What is your contact?
I have a card. Yeah, certificates are probably out front.
And then where do you want the
Make
business
sure
card?
everybody, yes, please fill out your evaluations and make certain that you signed that roster. And if you want the slides, leave me a card. Yes.
This Gary.
So, not sure, do you get the national real post? Two lenders, I think.
Doesn't sound familiar.
Yeah, every Monday to Friday, every morning you wake up to a video from them. And they totally keep you
That's
updated.
$1,200.
They're lenders, is what they are.
Can you
But,
send me their contact info?
yeah, I'm trying to find the one where they talked about what happened in Vegas, because it was literally like they banned Zillow, and then the
Well,
board
no,
came
there's,
in
it's,
behind them,
it's
within,
retail,
like,
but it's
12
not,
hours because,
you can't
you
have
know,
any
the
type
board
of
ruled,
food
and
service
were
in
like,
that
no.
space.
But I guess there were a handful of agents whose
No,
business
it's-
relied on
it's-
Zillow, and they said it would be
it's not in the
detrimental to
zoning.
their businesses to
And
get
it's
rid
only
of Zillow,
12
so they
years.
bought back.
Yeah, well, there's also restraints from an antitrust.
As far as,
We can't restrain.
Yeah.
So that's probably what it was more.
Interesting.
Same here. That's exactly what we're doing.
Yeah.
do they get around that idea though? That Zillow is actually end up selling our listing. Basically, the referral. They remove our name from it. and
They're
then
not
they-
supposed to
What
do
was-
that.
they
That
sell
is a
it?
violation.
But they do it as a.
Marty at IGS, right? Yeah, I'd like to have my card. Yeah, we need to be filing those complaints because that is clearly a violation.
Whenever we first started the brokerage, we would pay the equivalent of sometimes $30 or $40 a referral. That is really a listing that they picked up at Zillow or Realtors.com. They removed the name, somebody came and looked at it, and now we're buying that referral from
Yeah.
us and they looked at it. But our name isn't on there.
Right.
Somebody else, it's another.
Which is wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's still happening, actually.
It shut off.
And that is wrong.
Like I shut it off.
I appreciate it.
And
It's
this last time.
great information.
Oh, good. I'm so glad you enjoyed it.
You know, it's, uh,
So it's.
I'm trying to do some
So that's
different
good for a
creative
few
marketing.
minutes.
Yeah.
and want to use
I
good information about what you shared. Question that I do have is, as far as what are we allowed to do marketing wise in another state, like marketing to those California people?
Do you need anything else from us?
What kind of marketing can we do?
I only like
as
to
a
market
region?
to the right buyers.
There used to be an awful lot of
Yep, I only like
companies
to market to
that
the ones who
would
buy
go
the home.
there and market Arizona properties. And you can do that without having to get the California license. But they used to do large seminars. So they would call a broker firm there and say, we're looking for you to refer your buyer pool to us.
Yeah,
And they would go do a full presentation. But that would be, and my husband and I actually did that a long time ago. We visited various offices that weren't chains. We just did a 3-day marketing